What's up?
How are you?
I can't believe we never met each other until today. That's kind of crazy.
It's really weird.
It's kind of crazy. It was always like at the store, they're like, Katt was here last night. I'm like, fuck. It was always two ships in the night.
Right. I would see you and not be able to get to you. Like, comedy is small, but only if you're mediocre. It's big. It's a vast, vast place.
It's vast and it's also small because there's so few of us. And worldwide, we were talking about this the other day. There's maybe 500 of us on the planet. You know, you got to be real generous and say 500 because it's really probably about 250.
Right.
But like legit comics, guys you want to hang out with, guys who are fun. Guys who
your number's going down.
The number's going down.
Your number's going down.
Guys who'd recommend, leave your house, get a babysitter. The number's going down. There's not a lot of people.
Right.
You think about the billions and billions of people on the planet, there's a little smidgen of us.
Well, as children, we all take to talking with ease. And so the fact that later on in your life, you be one of the people that could say, I talk for a living, is an amazing honor.
It's amazing.
Even if you look 1,000 years back.
Yeah, especially today. To just be able to talk for a living? Oh, my God. What? And that's the problem also with what we do, is that everybody can talk. So they see you talking, they're like, I can do what he's doing.
Right.
He's just up there talking.
And the better you do it, the easier it looks, which
Right.
is part of the trap.
Yeah, it's part of the trap.
It looks like he doesn't think about what he says. He just says stuff. But you couldn't be as accurate.
No. And then there's hanging around with comics and getting to know about shit like their electric Rolls Royces.
Right. Right. If Satan hits me, just know I'm hitting back immediately. You're going to know about it if I've never heard. Yeah, the electric specter.
That thing is insane. That thing's insane. Just the way the doors open up, the way the doors close when you touch the brakes. Totally silent.
For the price point, it would have to be perfect. And the whole thing is, it is. And that's what you're trying to do in any genre. Mm-hmm. Like, you're trying to find that thing that is flawless in that genre.
Right.
And that's it.
That's the Rolls Royce. I've never had one of those.
Right. Well, because it's important to you that you be grounded in the important ways. So I can see you not having not had a Rolls Royce. I've had 4, 5.
I'm not opposed to it. It's just the idea of it to me is like, don't do that. For me, you know, I'm always like, get away from that. Go get yourself a muscle car.
Well, see, you see what I mean? Yeah, because we live vicariously through these things, and it's been that way for all of humankind. I'm saying it was still like that for the Roman and his chariot.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
that's how he felt. Like, that's how horsemen feel about that ride. You know, like,
yeah.
transportation and people have a love story.
Yeah, that's really the only object that I'm really into. Like, I'm
Vehicles?
into vehicles. I'm into mechanical vehicles.
Right.
There's like something about mechanical vehicles that just speak to me. I love them. I love looking at them. I love sitting in them. I love driving them. It's just like, it's one of the things that people say, like, money can't buy you happiness. That's definitely true. If you're fucked up, you're not going to get happier if you get rich. But if you're already reasonably happy and you can afford a nice muscle car, god damn, you'll feel happier. You will feel happier.
But every time.
Every time you
So
drive
what I'm saying is, when I got the 67 Chevy Camaro, I needed no other cars. I was complete.
Yeah.
When I got the Grand National, you couldn't tell me anything. There was nothing on the highway that was of my ilk.
Yeah.
But I've felt that way 12, 13 times. That's what makes it real love.
Yeah, they give you real joy every time you drive them.
And you feel like that character in that movie. You
Fuck
know,
yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah, you drive a 1970 Chevelle, you feel like John Wick.
yeah, it's a sacred place. There's music there. There's
Yeah.
recklessness, but there's safety.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Yeah.
like it gets to
Thrills.
the essence of a being.
And I think it's a thing that won't exist 100 years from now. I think automated driving will be mandatory. I really do. I think we're about
Well-
100 years away. 100 years away from no personal automobiles. No control of your vehicle. We're going to stop all crashes. If we could stop all crashes and all highway deaths. Come on, Katt. Won't you contribute and give up all your rights to drive? We're
It's-
going to stop all death.
Yeah, it's not. But understand that all of these things have financial benefits, and then they use those perks you just mentioned to get you in. But
Yeah.
yeah,
But somebody's making money.
I believe that it'll be mandatory, but for practical reasons, like this thing where the police want you and they have to chase you and you may get away, those days are done.
Yeah, they're just
You
going to
see what
shut your car off. Yeah.
your car is going to do what they
Yeah.
tell it to do,
Yeah.
which is get behind this patrol car and follow us to the station.
There's
Lock the
speculation
doors,
that
like-
they've had that for a long time, you know. There was that famous journalist, Michael Hastings, that was his name. There's this journalist. I don't know if you know this story, but it's pretty crazy. This guy went to Afghanistan. So Afghanistan with the troops, and he was only supposed to be there writing a Rolling Stone article about this general for a very short amount of time. But then there was the volcano in Iceland, and the volcano in Iceland stopped air travel. So this journalist from the Rolling Stone was embedded in this troop, and they started talking shit. And he started reporting the shit that they were talking, including disparaging comments that the general had said about Obama. So the general gets back. He has to retire. He has to, it's the Rolling Stone exposed. It's a big deal because everybody loves this general. So he retires, and this Michael Hastings guy is on the run, and he's terrified. He's telling people, if I commit suicide, I did not kill myself. People are threatening my life. And then he's going down La Brea, and his car is going like 120 miles an hour and just slams into a tree and explodes. And there's a video footage of it. This dude is just flying. Look at that, flying down the street. Hits a tree, and the car explodes. And they asked security experts at that time, I think this was like 2005, 4? 2004, 2005? Is it possible to control a vehicle remotely? They said, does your vehicle have a computer? If your vehicle has a computer, they can control it. Period. There's a way.
And they know that.
And they've been doing that for, this is
2010.
2010. So this is 14 fucking years ago.
Easy peasy.
If they could do that then, what can they do now? They just shut your fucking car right off.
Oh, that's when his article came out. I'm sorry. So I think the accident was 2013.
Oh.
There you go.
Well, how was the article in 2010 if the accident's in 2013?
Well, the article came out first and exposed McChrystal. Then
Oh, the Rolling Stone
yeah,
article.
yeah,
I thought you meant
yeah.
the article
No,
on
sorry.
the accident.
If you actually do reading about Tesla, see, that's the thing, Joe. That's why I love history so much, because once you find out that this world is a circle, you can never get lost. Like,
Right.
you can look at certain things and it'll
Patterns.
tell you what's going to happen later, like with amazing accuracy. Like, yeah, like that's how I knew that things like what you showed me with Hastings, that those were real things.
Yeah.
It's not.
They've always been real.
Everybody who has ever been killed in one of those ways, there was a financial benefit to it. It was obvious. It was easy. You know where it came from. It's just that they do a good job. But how is that difficult if that's your job? Like, they
Exactly.
do this. They do this really well. They do it worldwide.
Well, so this guy fucked with the worst person you could fuck with. A high-ranking, beloved general who's in charge of trained killers who love him. And you don't think he could put one of those dudes on you with a coffee meeting? Just have a sit down at Starbucks with no phones on you? And let me explain what's going on?
A shadow government is no more difficult than a government.
Yeah. And so not only that, they don't have to get elected. It's even better. even nicer. They can stay for a long time. They can, I mean, think about J. Edgar Hoover. How long did that motherfucker stay in power for? He was running the FBI wearing a dress for like 30 years.
Because of what you just discussed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like there are that's why I can speak with impunity about the Illuminati, because I know who you would have to be in order for what I'm saying to bother you, number one.
Right.
Number two, I know your big secret. I know that you're not the Illuminati. I am. So you can't be illuminated. You're too dark. But the difficulty is getting people to believe something that they don't want to believe. And in each of these cases, this is where the money is. If you're just a capitalist, it is find something, establish a value for it, and make sure that that includes your profit, and make sure people really want it.
Right.
It's very fundamental.
Also, if you're running corporations and you're making billions of dollars, you're going to get bored. What's the ultimate game? The ultimate game is to run the whole world. Do you know what the ultimate game is, Katt?
I do.
We have an overpopulation problem, Katt.
Yeah.
It's an overpopulation problem.
Right.
And we're gonna be able to mitigate that with vaccines. We're gonna be able to mitigate that with health care.
Right.
We're gonna figure that out. We're gonna get rid of a bunch of people.
We used to be able to do it with neglect, and it was called nature's way.
Right.
You know,
Right.
like whatever was ailing you, it wasn't ailing everybody in the world. The Chinese didn't have it because they had 6,000 herbs 6,000 years ago and knew what each one did. And, you know,
people are very resistant to that when they don't realize that almost all pharmaceutical drugs come from plants.
You can't be against the original.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. That's government propaganda working on you. That's like remember when they had Marinol, when they were making weed illegal, and the people were going through cancer, and their doctors had prescribed them weed for chemotherapy, so they gave them Marinol. Do you remember that shit?
I do.
It's like a synthetic version of weed that's terrible.
But terrible is subjective,
Right.
to nothing. So they have this oil-like cannabis that is for people having seizures.
Right.
And it's the only thing that will stop a seizure.
Yeah, it's incredible.
It is. But here's the thing. The fact that there is a God is the biggest conversation worldwide. But the truth of the matter is, there is more reason for you to believe there is a God than there is for you to not. Like the way that things interact, like if we're just talking about marijuana or alcohol or whatever that is, you have to understand that this thing serves no other purpose than to bring pleasure to this small group of beings.
Right.
And the fact that it already was set up to do that, the fact that it was already set up on this planet for there to be medicines for us to find and to utilize. And you see what I'm saying? It's like, it's not like, oh, yeah, so he made a cow. No, to make a cow, it means you had to also have made grass. And it means you would have had to have invented a whole new eating system for this animal, which was cud. And that means you would then have to have given him 3 stomachs to be able to, and you would have to have known that he was going to then emit a gas that was going to be necessary on the planet. Like, like none of these things.
Fertilizer,
all
of it.
Right. The fact that
Seeds.
everything goes together is how you know.
It's pretty wild. And every time we step in and fuck with it, it goes haywire.
Right.
Every time human beings do it.
Predictably haywire.
Haywire.
Right.
Haywire.
Right, but that's part of the benefits of free will. Is you really can jump into a volcano, dude.
Yeah. Haywire.
You really can.
I mean, think about what we've done to wildlife. The craziest thing in this country, especially right here, is pigs. Bro, wild pigs are everywhere, and there's so many of them. I went to a friend of mine's farm, it's like a ranch, to hunt wild pigs, and you just hear them like Lord of the Rings characters in the bushes. And there's 150 of them near you, 250 of them, thousands on the ranch. They're all over the place, and they have 3 litters a year. And they start having litters when they're 6 months old. They just pump out piglets. Let's go.
You can tell they're not delicious.
They are delicious.
Oh, well, then here we go then.
They're
we don't really
delicious.
we don't really have a problem then,
Right.
do we?
No, we have a we need to eat pigs problem.
No, we need to be sending this off somewhere
Yeah.
to someone who does.
Well, definitely we should. That would be an easy way to solve a lot of hunger problems.
I'm saying we live in a country where
Yeah.
we're complaining about food sources.
It's a good point.
These chickens are pecking us to death. They're everywhere. I can't even sleep. Yeah, but they're delicious,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Have more chickens. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we do have an overabundance problem for sure. We really do. But the pig thing is a wild one. It's hard to get them. Like they're very smart and they spread out and there's so fucking many of them. They shoot them with helicopters. They
Oh,
fly
yeah, I've
over
seen
them.
Right.
I haven't been invited 3 times since I moved here to go shoot pigs out of a helicopter.
But that's part of the reason that you came to Texas.
The freedom, for sure.
Texas is a place of great adventure
Yeah.
and people who believe in that.
Yeah.
Like, it's really God's country in the right places.
It is in the right places. I think you're going to have annoying people everywhere you go in this world. But in general, I think the people here overall are nicer, they're friendlier, and they're not captured. They're not captured by the ether of Hollywood. They haven't been sucked into the vortex of ideological thinking and just that weirdness of that town. So when you escape that and just be around regular people, you're like, oh, people are all right. I've just been in an insane asylum. You're looking for a girlfriend. Like you have to
Right.
be in a place where you're around good people, like normal people. That's better for you.
You're not trying to say that people that happen to live there are not nice people.
There's
That's
a lot of nice people there, for
here's,
sure.
Here's the thing. Hopefully we can agree that the problem is with extremes.
Yes.
Extreme anything.
Yes.
Extreme left is as vicious and as far right.
Yep.
It's, the middleness of it all that makes America great. And
For
Texas
sure.
has been front and center of that forever.
I think a big part of it, though, is how much does your government control you? Even when things don't even make sense. Like in California, they made flavored vapes illegal. Can you imagine? You're
Yeah.
like, strawberry mist is our number one
That was
problem.
fine, but they let it also hurt black people in that it counted menthol as a flavor and hurt Newports.
So you can't sell menthol cigarettes in California.
Right, they
That
have their own cigarettes.
is
They have
wild.
non-menthol Newports. Yeah, it's terrible.
Why do black people like menthol so much? What's that about? It's a totally different type of cigarette.
You're gonna get me canceled.
No.
This is very racist. This
Is it?
conversation, even though neither of us are. Go figure.
Just talking about a type of cigarette that
us
people
saying,
enjoy?
just saying, why do black people like Newport so much? And a black
Menthol
black
cigarettes.
person actually getting ready to answer this. Oh, it's terrible on all ends.
I don't think it is.
Well, I don't think it is either because we have a new.
It's like if you started
cigarette.
asking me about spaghetti, I'm not going to get offended. If you started asking me about Italian food or why are Italian people so loud, I'm not going to get offended.
How many people have ever died of pasta-related illnesses?
A lot.
Joe.
A lot of fatzos out there kicking the bucket, bro.
That's not because of pasta.
That's an overabundance of carbohydrates.
They were
sir.
going to be fat wherever they lived, sir.
Maybe. That's an overindulgence.
Going to be great bread
in
eaters in
delicious high
Uzbekistan.
carbohydrate food. They couldn't stop it. People are addicted to food like they're addicted to anything. And if there's a thing that I could ever be addicted to, it's that.
Right. That's all of us, though.
All of us.
And what a blessing.
Yeah. We have so much.
Starving people aren't addicted
Exactly.
to anything, and they don't have food-related illnesses.
Exactly.
But back to where we were.
Yeah.
You were
The
asking
left
me about
versus the right. I
about
just-
the menthol cigarettes.
Oh, that's right.
And the answer is, we value strength in product. So there's this whole thing with liquor and malt liquor and the difference between the two, and one is richer and stronger.
The more potent version.
Right. And as
Okay, that makes
as
sense.
a people, we tend to go with those products.
Things that are stronger. That makes sense.
Right. Like before things were called concentrate.
Yeah.
That's what we appreciated.
That makes sense.
Concentrated. And the fact that menthol is a natural thing. So,
Right.
anybody who is from the South knows about mint plants and,
And menthol
You
used
always-
as a skincare product, like
Yeah.
injuries and shit.
Right, like you appreciate that as a flavor profile as
Right.
well.
That makes sense.
The mint julep.
It's just telling people they can't have that anymore. Who the fuck are you? That's my position.
Well, and that's a noble position, and we appreciate the fact that you represent that. But the truth of the matter is not pretty. And the truth of the matter is that most people would like to be controlled more by their government if they
To make
had.
it easier? Maybe.
Most people are all for government control as long as they don't have to discuss it.
Yeah, as long as it works in their favor, they'll give up a lot of rights. And then hopefully the next administration that's
Rights are
right-wing
generally
won't abuse
worthless
those
at the
rights.
time.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of people that if the government can make life easier, a lot of people have it hard, right? So if the government
Yeah.
comes in and says, I'm going to make it easier for you, but I'm going to need certain requirements of you. I'm going to need you to have a digital ID. That digital ID will be attached to a social credit score. And we're going to give you universal basic income. You no longer have to worry about food or shelter. You'll be taken care of, and now you can pursue your dreams.
Is this the mark of the beast you're speaking of, sir?
I think it is.
Right.
Look,
That's the whole thing. Is it's never been difficult at any point in history. Like we got a dude right now that's telling you front and center that I put a computer in somebody's head, guys.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. And everybody's going, yay.
it's the greatest thing in the world, sir.
Yeah.
But we understood this 15, 20, 25 years ago. We understood while watching Tron or while watching Cyborg, we understood that there was just this small line medically that needed to be crossed in order for us to be able to do these things.
Yeah.
Like if you can hook a battery up to an octopus and make it go like this, you're halfway there.
Yeah.
Why? Because this is a machine that we have.
It's a biological machine.
Right. And once
Yeah.
you understand it, you understand it.
Yeah. And you could fuck with that machine. You could juice it up. You could fucking get it stronger, get it smarter.
This
you could do
is-
a lot of things with that machine.
This is what the Anunnaki said. This is how you know that these are not made up things from people's imagination, because everything is too factual. Like this necklace, right?
Right.
People online were like, yeah, is that Buddhist or that's this or that? It's none of that. Like I just try to find the answers to things. So
Is that a ship wheel?
I designed this because this is that thing that you see that all the Anunnaki guys that look like a wristwatch, and they always have it, and you're always trying to see what that is.
Yeah, what is that?
It is a time, and it's a compass. It's a timekeeping compass.
That's what that is?
Yeah. So that's what made the carrier of great importance, because he was able to do things that were magical in nature, like go somewhere and get right back. Like, you know what I mean?
So, yeah,
like
that thing on the wrist was a compass?
a timekeeping
Timekeeping compass.
Yeah. Right. So you had to believe in things that didn't exist at some point, like magnetics and distance and
Right.
probabilities and
Right.
right. That's how, like, if you were to read like thousands of books about people that knew a bunch of shit, like you start finding out that it's not really about knowing anything. It's about where to go to get the information. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like when we look at all the ruins all around the world, like we're not seeing ruins of colleges and universities and all of that. We're seeing temples and synagogues and churches, but people don't understand that that's where that information was coming from for that period of time. When we went to these temples, they weren't in there singing and reading from a book. They were in there being taught things that they were able to go put into practice. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like they were being taught art, agriculture. You know what I mean? Like they were being taught.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they had some very bizarre knowledge too. They had a detailed knowledge of cosmology. They had a really detailed knowledge of our solar system.
100% of the writings across the world, whoever said anything about space or the universe or what was out there, why were all of them correct, Joe? It's not even possible. Like, how did they know that Mars was the red planet, and why was it a worldwide fact?
Right.
Planetarily, that Saturn had rings, like
Yeah.
based upon what information? Because nobody worldwide is disagreeing. Nobody's like, oh, I thought of this, or it came to me in a dream. Nobody's saying that anywhere in anybody's civilization. Everybody's civilization says this information came from the people that came from there.
Yeah.
There are no coincidences.
Well, they know that Mars used to have an atmosphere. Mars used to have an atmosphere. It used to have water. Something happened to its environment.
If that's correct, then there's a
Yeah.
guy right now saying he's getting ready to put people up there.
Yep. Exactly.
You see?
Restarted all over again.
50 years ago, there was no water in our whole universe. Let them tell it. Now there's been water almost everywhere. There's water on the moon, for crying out
Are
loud.
you familiar with the Younger Dryas impact theory? Do you know what that is?
Say what it
Younger
is.
Dryas impact theory is a theory that Earth goes through a cycle of like comet storms every June and every November. And most of the time nothing happens. But every now and again we get hit. We get hit big. And they think we got hit big 11,800 plus years ago. And that had to restart civilization. And that what you're seeing from like Mesopotamia, all these people 6,000 years later, they think that is a rebuilding of civilization that was already like just whispers and stories and tales, and then they rebuilt it again thousands of years later. But if you go back to like 11,800 BC, 11,800 years ago, you're dealing with what we thought were hunter-gatherers, and now we know they weren't. Now we know they built complex stone structures, and the real speculation is they think that the people who built the pyramids built them way earlier than the conventional dating is. They think there's real evidence that shows
No.
they're 9,000, 11,000 years old. Easy.
No people built the pyramids.
No people?
No.
Who built them?
No people built the pyramids. And if you look around the world, you see certain telltale things that let you know that advanced machinery was in usage. Look, there
For
this
sure.
whole thing where slaves are stronger people is a fallacy. We like to believe that slaves are stronger. Slaves are weaker because they don't eat the right food and they live a terrible life. Your slave population is not smarter and better condition unless you're enslaving the Jews.
The pyramid. They stopped thinking that quite a while ago. They think it was actually skilled labor because of the way they were eating. They found what their camps were, where their food was. They ate like very good food. So they think they were actually skilled labor, but also probably forced skilled labor. But that's probably not the people who built it. That's probably the people that were working on it. That's probably the people that worked in the village or in the city.
How many companies have done renovations on the White House? None of them have done enough renovation that they can claim it's their White House. So, yes, thousands of years worth of people were there. but that doesn't have anything to do with the building of it.
Who do you think built it?
Well, understand, we know enough now to understand that this was a complex. This was not,
Right.
we've been led to believe that this is how much they worshipped their dead bodies.
Right.
But the evidence doesn't show any of that.
No, it doesn't.
Like when you see inside when they have those intricate carvings and paintings and stuff in gold and stuff, you have to remember this is in a windowless room, folks. There's no candle soot. There's no this. It's clearly a power plant and built specifically for that location on this planet. For
What do you think it was powered
usage.
by?
The hot water springs underneath it.
So it was powered by the hot water springs? And to what end? How do you know all this, first of all? Is this marijuana talk?
I don't think so. This is
Where did you read this?
if you follow information about humankind, you find out that in all parts of history, people were coming to this region for their information and their knowledge and their things
Yes.
that were forbidden, and
Yep.
these were not these were the highest of human civilization. Here.
Not even comparable to anyone else.
No.
Nor since. Nor
now
since.
or yeah,
Nor since.
right.
The
And-
Great Pyramid of Giza is insane.
right. Like
It's insane.
Like even Tesla says that this is where he came to get the information. But if you follow that information pathway, it leads you to this character called Thoth, right? And the emerald tablets of Thoth are literally mind-changing and mind-blowing, just because you understand when this was written and the terminology being used is
When was it written?
far too accurate for now. So I'm sure that
Here it is. Emerald Tablet. Also known as the Smaragdine Tablet or the Tabula Smaragdina. Boy, I fucked that up. It's a compact
Hermes
and
Trismegistus.
a cryptic hermetic text. It was highly regarded by Islamic and European alchemists as the foundation of their art. Though attributed to the legendary Hellenistic figure Hermes Trismegistus. How do you say it, bro? How'd you say it?
Trismegistus.
Trismegistus. The text of the Emerald Tablet first appears in a number of early medieval Arabic sources, the oldest of which dates to the late 8th or early 9th century. It was translated into Latin several times in the 12th and 13th centuries. Numerous interpretations and commentaries followed. So what does it say, though? The Egyptian god Thoth. Okay, it says beginning in the 2nd century BC onwards, Greek texts attributed to Hermes, a syncretic combination of Greek god Hermes and the Egyptian god Thoth, appeared in Greco-Roman Egypt. Those texts known as the Hermetica are heterogeneous collection of works that in the modern day era are commonly subdivided into two groups: the technical Hermetica, comprising of astrological, medico-botanical, alchemical, and magical writings, and the religio-philosophical Hermetica, comprising of mystical, philosophical writings. Holy shit.
Is this weed talk, Joseph?
No, this is so legit.
So legit, my man.
So this dude was probably an alien.
Dude, first of all, there are no probablys.
Yeah.
That's the benefit once you hear it or read it, is the fact that it's given in first person, and that's not possible. The things that are being said are impossible. Enough time has passed, though, that it's not like that. But
I'm going to read that.
he literally says, hey, there's a spaceship on Earth, and this is where it is. Because if all you care about is information, right? Like, that's what you start to see is when you get to everybody's civilization, Asian, Indian, African, when you get to the crux of their information, nobody's disagreeing with anybody.
Right. If you figured out how the fuck they did it, if there was any logical explanation that people could have done it, I would be on board. I'd be like, well, okay.
But there aren't any people saying that.
Human beings it's possible if you had enough power and you had enough engineering and mathematics that you could figure out how to design and construct the pyramid.
Yes.
But then the logistical problem of getting the stones from hundreds of miles away, massive, several ton, up to 80-ton stones.
Joe.
That's crazy.
If you
500 miles away, some of them.
Even if you could do it, let me ask you this. Would you build it on sand?
I don't think it was originally sand. See, that's the thing.
Right. This was a fertile valley.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Right.
The Nile Valley. That
they,
was the reason
they had
why they
electric and Wi-Fi, and they had all of that.
They probably did. And that's probably where the younger dryas impact theory comes in.
The greatest trick is to make us believe that people back then were dumber and we're smarter.
Right.
And that whole thing is a fallacy.
Yeah, that's definitely not real.
But it's worth it for us to believe that.
I think we are the children of the survivors of some great catastrophe. And I think that's why every single
Not everybody.
biblical scholar... What?
Not everybody. Some people
What do you mean?
are that.
Some people are the survivors?
Right.
Well, I mean, most human beings probably got wiped out in comet storms. And I think we probably got... Look, there's been points in history that they know of where human beings got down to like 7,000 people.
Who's counting them?
I think they use genetics and they backtrace and they try to find individuals that were capable of having X amount of children. I wonder how they do the calculations. It's a good question.
The things in
I'm
Hollywood
just guessing, honestly.
and in writing that have attracted our attention worldwide were all based on some truth. So all the stories of hobbits have been successful in all of their genres. Why? Because they existed. Like we now know that there were whole pygmy groups, and that, you know, we understand that that's what the Seven Dwarves was.
Yeah. Like that island of Flores, man, that they found. They literally call it a hobbit. It was like a 3-foot-tall person that was covered in hair, smaller head than us, used tools.
As a preteen, I knew that Atlantis really existed just because of how it was spoken of offhandedly.
Mm-hmm. Just that there's no evidence.
Well, not just mentioned, but mentioned offhandedly, like in places just in Newark, we were in Austin.
Yeah.
Like that.
Have you ever seen the guy that plays like a down spot in Africa? What is that the ring called? That Jimmy Corsetti is he's on this. This dude is an expert in shit. He's an expert in ancient catastrophes and the remnants and the evidence that shows that these civilizations existed and something happened. And he's focused on this one area in Africa that he believes is Atlantis. And he says it has all the hallmark characteristics, and there's all the evidence of massive water erosion surrounding the area. That at one point in time, it's very likely that this area got hit with a massive flood, and it matches all the characteristics of Atlantis. When you see it, when you see the way the concentric circles of rings, like try explaining this. You're going to see it. And try explaining this through a natural phenomenon that doesn't exist anywhere around it. Concentric circles that is near what used to be water, and there's heavy water erosion marks all around it that indicate massive amounts of quick-flowing water in a very short period of time.
Yeah.
That's it. Look at that thing. Bro, are you fucking kidding me? That's it. The reshot structure. I mean, are you fucking kidding me? Now imagine if that was this massive city of concentric circles and walls and a thriving population, and then it gets hit with this water. You can see the water erosion all over the place. The whole thing looks like it's washed out. See? It looks like it was washed out because it was.
But that's
Yes,
what
there's
makes,
salt there. That's the other thing.
between this and garden locations, like these are the two landmarks in history.
Where's the Garden of Eden?
Well, when you read the stories, right, the thing that strikes you is that it's so specific. Like, it says things in talking about the Garden of Eden that, wait a minute, if I can't find what you're talking about, this isn't even real. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Like where the Garden of Eden was, there's, I think, 4 rivers that come from it. And then it names 2 of them. Like, I don't want to be specific because at least he's going to bring it up. But it's like the Nile and the Euphrates, right?
Right.
So you know 2 of them. And it's saying, you know, where the 4 meet, this is where it is. And, yeah, my whole life I was like, this is really weird, because at one period of time we're thinking no flood happens. There's so many things that have lined up from these great religious books to where we can see that no, something happened here. Like,
Something happened, and these are stories of people telling stories that have been told to them for about 1,000 years.
but
before
this
anybody
is
wrote it
why,
down.
right?
Yeah,
This is
because
why
something
they were
happened.
told, and that's what
Yeah.
that's the difference between those of us that want to know the world's mysteries and conspiracy theorists. Like, there's
Right.
nothing to a conspiracy theorist because you're not producing what you're using. But these world mysteries, like, that's harder to do. A lie is not something that people are going to repeat for generations on generations. It's being repeated like that because people have reason to believe it to be true. And as you go through history, you see that those are the stories that we still talk about, but they're still valid. Like, there were writings that the African Dogon tribe is like,
Right.
like they're
From like the Sirius star system.
like they're saying very specific
Yeah.
things, and for hundreds of years we're going, you guys are idiots. You don't know what you're talking about, right? Like,
Right.
somebody will have a fake star story,
Right.
you see?
Right.
And now we get to the point where we can actually see what they were talking about.
What if we
and
find
it
out
was-
that we're aliens? That we were just dropped off here a long ass time. And the Adam and Eve story is the story of the place where they created us.
I'm sure we're the only people in the universe that think like that.
You think so? Why do you think that?
No portion of humankind's story differs from that.
It's all creation story.
Like, if you go, that's why NASA and Space Force are not more forthcoming, because the further you get in space, the more obvious shit is. Like, once you're up there and you're looking down, this shit doesn't look like there is no God. It looks like you're in the middle of somebody's workshop and they just showed you every single way that every star can be made, every single way a planet can be made, every way that a black hole can be, a galaxy, a universe, and then showed you the best of the best.
It's the spot. I mean, in our solar system, we're the best neighborhood that's ever existed. They all suck. Every other planet sucks.
We're rudimentary enough that we still require environmental help.
Right, until you get that chip. Once you get
At
that
each
chip,
point, it would be like saying people that didn't learn how to ride horses, they were slow. Like they couldn't run fast enough, so they got horses.
right.
No, it didn't have anything to do with that. Better's better.
That's really what it's going to be. Better's
Right,
better.
right.
We're all going to integrate.
Like we would have told you 30 years ago that we wouldn't need a Space Force unless we went up there and found something.
I think the Space Force, the idea is that they're worried about
It's not an idea.
someone else being in space first with weapons flying around.
You mean us?
Yeah. Well, if we can do it, they can do it. That's the thing.
Who is they?
Whoever it is.
No,
China.
There's only humankind and
Yes.
alien.
Oh, I agree.
Right.
The problem is, this is what we really need. We really need this Neuralink to lock us all together so everybody could read everybody's mind. That's what's going to happen, and then there's going to be no more leaders. There's going to be no more governments.
Okay. You're
There's
being
gonna be
very
no more-
controversial right now. Okay, so look, that
Better is better.
That exists already. So just understand that the worldwide government is way smarter than we give them credit for because they have us believing they don't do nothing. But the truth is, like there's no such thing as the government is in bed with the internet. No, the internet is a government installation that they allowed the world to use for free so that they could have the information willingly because you're on it.
That's what it became.
Exactly.
But I think
that's
it's
what it
just
was
the
to
progression.
become.
You think so?
Yes.
I think the progression of technology oftentimes leads itself to, like, even cell phones. At first, it was Michael Douglas walking on the beach in Wall Street, looking amazing with that brick, carrying that big brick. Like, look at that guy. He's got a phone with no cord. He's out on the beach. This is insane. To everybody having a phone.
But not to everybody, because those in the ham radio community and people with the CBs, they didn't feel like that was cutting edge because it really wasn't. Like
It's still cutting edge to be
This
able to
is-
walk around with a device. It's a leap in technology.
here's the thing: when you look at all of our inventions, that's when you know that these space encounters were real, because we only have advancement in a couple of industries in the world, and everything else is nothing. So, like the microwave that they had 30 years ago, it looks the same as the same microwave now. Why? Because it was done as a military thing. It was supposed to be a weapon, and then they found out, it heats up food, and they put a door on it. And so it hasn't changed at all because invention is very difficult. And
Do you subscribe to the idea that we get back engineered?
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's why those leaps, we don't see those leaps in anything else, is my point. Like
Yeah. There's
The
so much
real time.
speculation about the creation of a bunch of different things that came out of Roswell. Fiber optics.
right, but remember,
Yeah.
20 years ago, 15 years ago, this is crazy talk.
Crazy talk, yeah. But now it's New York
it's
Times.
not. Like, it's at the point, at this point, like, Area 51 would have to be doing something.
They were definitely doing something.
Right.
Yeah.
And nobody's telling a differing story as to what it is.
Right.
Like, people have great imaginations all through history. They could make up something. The only damning information is if you read 3,000 accounts of these entities and realize, wait a minute, why is everybody describing the same couple of beings?
Right.
Like there's no
Right.
there's no outliers. Like
There's like 3 different things they describe. Yeah, they said that the documented 8 to 12.
we're not talking about English speaking people. We're talking about worldwide. Right.
Worldwide.
Like
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
what is striking.
Indigenous people in Australia drew them. Yeah.
Right. Nobody's saying anything outlandish. And
No.
that's what you get to when you go religiously or
Well, the alien thing is a bit of a religion to a lot of folks. They don't want to believe anything.
it's a necessary component.
Yeah.
Whatever religion you're a part of, at some point it says
You were contacted.
that there
Yeah.
was a fight in heaven and,
Yeah.
this happened and that happened.
Yep. Every
And-
single one of them.
Everyone without, nobody's telling a different story. Everybody's telling the same stories.
Yeah.
Like, that's how you know that vagina and gold are universal things, because in everybody's story, none of these otherworldly entities had any interest in anything other than women,
and gold.
right, pussy or gold. Like, because and you understand that now when you start learning about what's in space, because you can see that any element or any commodity that we sell here is abundant in space, like trash. They found one meteor that was worth all the money.
On Earth.
Yeah, 770 billion.
No, it's
Trillion. It was
Whatever
another
it is.
number. It's some
crazy number.
Right. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, they know that there's spots in space that have abundant minerals that are very valuable. And the thing about the Sumerian story, the Sumerian text story, the real life story may make everyone a billionaire on this earth. Everyone would be a billionaire.
But
Every person would earn several $billion.
So it sounds jokey, right? But understand, somebody got this contract. Like, they
Right.
broke this up into several worldwide contracts. Like,
10,000 quadrillion.
it's just there.
But here's the thing. If you got that much gold, is gold valuable anymore? Because one of the things about gold is that there's not that much of it. If you look at, you ever seen the number of gold on Earth?
That's not necessary in capitalism. They showed us that with diamonds.
That's true. They could hide
it. It is about the perception of things. And if I buy up all of something, it is rare now. Immediately.
Right.
Just because I have control of all of it.
Right.
And that is worth killing Tesla over. And that's why
Yeah.
the people are still in business in Hollywood, because everything's a commodity.
Did you ever read, you ever heard of Zecharia Sitchin? Zecharia Sitchin was a biblical scholar who he deciphered the Sumerian texts, and he was like an expert in language. And when he deciphered, he might not have been a biblical scholar, might have just been a language expert. But either way, he deciphered these texts and wrote these books about the real meaning behind everything they were saying. And he said that the reason why we are so fascinated with gold is that the Anunnaki literally would have us mine gold for them because they needed it to protect their atmosphere. So what they would do is take gold, which is a very rare in what it does. What gold can do is you can take a little piece of gold like this big and coat this entire table. It's real weird.
Right.
So you could turn it into a fine dust, and they suspended this fine dust in their atmosphere to protect them from a degrading atmosphere because they were getting global warming or whatever.
Everybody that was
He wrote about this in the 70s.
it doesn't matter because everybody in Egypt knew it. Like, this is where the alchemy,
Yeah, that's where it all originated.
right?
Well,
Like,
we don't even know what they knew.
none of those people are saying, hey, I came up with this shit. They're saying,
Right, somebody gave it to us.
somebody who came from this place here came
Yeah.
and told us that this is how this goes and this is what this is worth.
Yeah.
Because I'm saying the people that were being abused in the mines going to get the diamonds, it wasn't like that for them. It was just them getting these rocks. And this
Right.
crazy guy's going to pay a day's wages for us to gather rocks. Let's gather them.
Right.
You know, this is, but when you follow back, it's all about the information. And at the top of it, nobody's trying to claim it. Like, nobody's saying,
Right, I invented this.
yeah.
Yeah, that is wild. If imagine this, that's how we're getting most of our shit, back engineered stuff they leave for us. We have to figure it out, sort through it. The people that have alien technology, if the people that do have an alien craft that they work on, what a weird reality you must live in. The whole rest of the world's got guessing, and you got this thing in front of you, like, oh, it's real. We have one. I could show it to you.
That's how everybody in Space Force will have to feel, right?
Right, they must. How many of them you think see shit?
I'm saying, how do you think Elon Musk really feels? Like,
I don't think he's gonna tell you.
no, I'm saying in his head, can he still have a superhero, or is he one of them?
Ooh.
You know, he's one of them. Like,
If you're the richest dude in the world and you're also a super genius, how the fuck do you stop yourself from thinking you're a superhero? That's the big question.
no, it's not like that.
No?
No, it doesn't have superhero side effects to it.
I mean, you would probably think. You're-
The more you know how little you know.
That's true,
So
too.
there's not you know what I mean? And nobody has ownership of information. That's why reading books moves civilization, because like when I said, like, you know, I read 3,000 books, people were like, yeah, right. But, you know, everything in life is about the environment it was grown in, the petri dish, right? So if I told you that from the time I was 8 to the time I was 12, I never celebrated any birthdays. I never went to a birthday party. I never had a Thanksgiving, a Christmas. I never trick-or-treated. I wasn't allowed to watch movies, and I wasn't allowed to watch TV. All I could do was read. If I told you that, then you would understand that for 8 hours a day, I got 8 hours, and I can read, and I love to read. And so I'm reading books that are 250, 200 pages, and it takes me about an hour to read one. So, yeah,
Takes you an hour to read
I'm reading
150 pages?
8 a day. Yeah, like, all I'm doing is reading, because that's what... So I'm checking out 20 books. The limit at the library is 20 books at one time. So I'm going Monday, Wednesday, and Friday just because this is my thing. Like,
So you're getting 60 books a week?
minimum. Because
Really?
Yeah, because I'm reading more than that, because I still have religious books that I have to read. So understand this is pre-internet first.
Right.
So understand that in reading one thing that I'm reading, right?
Right.
This one thing that I'm reading is also requiring me to have this appendix book that is the source book that it's telling me it's getting these things from. And so I've got 4 books open at a time just for this one book. Like, but yeah, so first, I guess between 8 and 12, I can read classics and nonfiction. So I'm saying no novels or anything like that. I'm just reading Time Life has like 1,800 of these individual books on all subjects of the world, and
So you just spent most of your time reading?
not most, all of it.
All of your time reading. And then when did it
That was my thing, because like I was able to be in each of these stories. You follow what I'm
Right.
saying? And I was getting so much information. Like half of those I probably had to write a 1-page report on after, But yeah, that was my whole thing. And the numbers aren't even really accurate because I read more than that. Because like sometimes I would read something and I wouldn't get it. Like there was this classic book called Little Women that I probably read it 4 times because I just didn't understand it, and I knew it was a classic, but
I never read it. What's it about? Have
about
you read it, Jamie?
Some Little Women.
I was a kid. I just watched an episode of Curb where they were talking about it.
What is the story about?
Here's the thing.
Sisters, I don't know.
Yeah, right. Like 4 sisters think
Okay.
that, okay? But they have money and an incredible circumstance. But the thing was, I didn't have any sisters, so I didn't have anything to pull from, and I didn't have women in my life like that. So, yeah, a lot of things I would have to read multiple times for me to get.
Right, to try to think how they thought.
Right. Well, yeah, even the Three Musketeers. Like I probably read it 3 times because it was so. I read it like the first time to read it, but then the next time I had to read it again because these characters were really distinct characters.
Right.
And I couldn't figure out, wait a minute, did this happen really in history, or was somebody just this good at telling this story of the, But it's things like that leads you to the Knights Templar story, which leads you to, seeing how things through history have remained. You know what I mean? Like, all of that you get from the books.
Well, history to me has always been the most fascinating thing because you can't quite imagine it. You're trying to imagine it, you're piecing it together,
Yeah.
listen to these stories, and you just sit back and go, what the fuck was that like?
Right.
And it
Which
wasn't
is
even
what
that
we
long
create
ago.
every day.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we're creating the future's version of what the fuck was that like. This
Yeah.
place right here freaks me out the most, because this area, specifically this area of Texas, the Hill Country, was just all Native Americans forever. There's thousands of arrowheads, man. Look
Here's
at this.
here's the
My friend
thing.
found this on his ranch.
None of those people, when we say those people, none of them picked a bad place ever.
No.
That's when you understand that there's a grid.
Yeah.
Because nobody's holy people picked bad spots.
No.
Everybody understood certain things about the area, and long before they had X-ray machines. And
Yeah.
if you just went by that in the whole world, you would start to understand, like, the true power of the Vatican and the fact that certain things are based on real shit, like the Ark of the Covenant ain't some spooky little story. It's
What do you think
like,
it is? Think it's like a nuclear generator or something like that? What do you think it is?
Whatever the nucleus is, that would nuclearly power something that would have initially been in the pyramids, would also have been in the Ark of the Covenant, which would be the same thing. It's
Right.
something that you can't fuck with, and it's
Right.
radioactive, and it's very powerful.
That's why they
but
gotta
it
put all
still
those rocks
has to
around
be.
it. Oh, shit.
That's what I'm saying.
Imagine-
Nobody's telling any crazy stories, my man. Not globally.
No.
No. Everything.
Well, it gets
was
less
about
crazy
something.
every year. It gets less crazy every year.
Yeah.
20 years ago, talking about any of this stuff was straight up nonsense.
Yes.
But now people are like, hold on. That's probably what disclosure actually looks like. It looks like a slow trickle integration into the zeitgeist to the point where it's just normal.
Because a lot of times they're right. A lot of
Yeah.
times it turns out that they were right, that no, we couldn't have told people this because, yeah, they would have went and this would have happened and that would have happened. And you can start to see that. Like,
Yeah. That's why when you think about what people have always believed, that's why angels and devils freak me out. Because no one wants to believe that there's a Satan, that there's a devil.
You
that
believe in
there's-
astronauts, though, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But people have always said there is.
You mean a bad and a good?
Yeah, not just a bad and a good, but an actual evil, malevolent force.
No, just start with bad
Okay,
and good.
yes, bad and
okay,
good,
so
yeah.
if we started bad and good, then we understand what must be at the extremes of that.
Right.
Nobody's telling a different story.
And then there's the concept of actual entities,
Yes.
actual demonic entities that do exist.
Well, I'm saying your DNA is either fused or it's not. If it is, it requires a fuser. That's all.
A fuser.
Right.
What do you mean by that?
I'm saying if they tell you that certain parts of your DNA are fused, that requires a fuser. Did I say that right?
I'm not sure. I see what you're saying. The structure to us in everything, all of it, does seem remarkable.
In a no mistakes type of way.
Yeah, and in a synchronistic sort of a way.
Which flies in the face of the accidental Big Bang, nothing from nothing way of thinking. And it always has been.
Well, that's what I think, like in the beginning there was light, when they talk about that. If you were going to describe the beginning of the universe, even if you're describing the Big Bang, which there's a lot of speculation that that wasn't necessarily the beginning, that there might be a continuous cycle of these events happening over and over again. But if you were talking about a creation story, you would say in the beginning there was light. 'Cause there was. It was a fucking enormous amount of light. It created the entire universe.
Literally.
Literally.
Right.
I think.
Which is all it says. And here's like whatever they say that hell or Hades is in any of these religions worldwide, it is the perfect description for what a black hole is in real life.
It is. You fall through forever.
A bottomless pit
Yeah. Where time doesn't exist.
where time does not exist, where you don't die, but you don't exit, where the information, like,
And it eats stars.
right. But it eats stars and galaxies,
Yeah.
all that, right? But we can have multiple of them, and
All
everything
over
will
the
still be
place.
okay.
They're the center. The center of
That's
every
the
galaxy.
flex.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
we're
the
fine
flex.
with them.
Right.
It's like if you live in Africa, you got to deal with lions.
What's this thing? Oh, it kills everything.
Right.
Everything what? Everything it touches.
Everything. It's going to get us eventually, but not now.
What? You
That's
mean you
the
have two
flex.
of them?
They find them floating around.
They find them.
They find them floating around.
Right.
I mean, they noticed them.
Yeah.
They noticed that they're out there floating around.
Yeah.
They found one that's so fucking big. We did this thing when we played a video of how small the Earth is in comparison to the sun, how small the sun is in comparison to giant stars, and how small giant stars are into the most massive, supermassive black hole that they know currently. It's bananas.
Our
what's out
perfect
there.
habitat is so perfect that anyone universally with sense would say, whew, location. You know?
Like the greatest real estate agent
Yeah.
ever.
If the moon or the sun were further back, we'd
We'd be fucked.
or
If Jupiter
or
wasn't there.
closer, or like
Yeah.
the whole thing is, someone later saying, "Do you think Beverly Hills was? You think this was an area they built on purpose?" Yeah. Was. Oh, don't let me.
Oh. Just imagine if the moon was slightly smaller. Just imagine.
Look,
Imagine if the Earth was slightly further away from the sun.
they know that it's to the point where some of it might have been artificially done, and they're aware of that. They're aware of the true
So the artificially
specifics of
created
the
solar
moon.
system? Oh, the moon.
Right.
I've heard that theory.
Specifically.
That's a wild theory.
Well, some of it's not theory. Like I was on that subject as a teenager, but as a grown person is when the thing happened where they hit it with the missile and it rang like a bell.
Yeah.
Like certain things are.
What was the explanation for that? Because it did have some sort of a crazy, like...
The question is, who will offer an explanation?
Right.
Because it wasn't like that. They didn't just do it once. Like all accounts say, it rang like a bell for hours and hours and hours. Like,
Imagine if that's a feature for a stable planet that they put there.
well, that's how Xbox works.
Really?
You know, or PlayStation. I'm an Xbox guy, but I'm saying, you know, you have your gaming system, and it just requires that and your Wi-Fi nearby, and bam, you know,
Right.
make things happen. And so many of our things globally, we come by understanding that, and the magnetics and dynamics and things that really work.
There's a lot of people that think that whatever we're seeing isn't just from another planet, but from another dimension. That they're dimensional travelers. That they have access to places that we don't have access to. Because we're too primitive. We can't wrap our head around it. As a civilization, we haven't reached the ability to transcend, but that they can, and that they're here all the time.
Well, the way we look at it, you know, we're the greatest spot in the universe, but the travelers don't lead us to believe that.
Well, there's always competition. There's always going to be a greater civilization than the one previous. There's always going to be more. There's always going to be more. If people are going to innovate to the point where they're going to make spacecrafts, that means these people are competing with each other. These things, whatever they are, they're still, they must be in some sort of competition. There must be something that motivates them. And so,
Right, but at that level, competition is healthy, and there are no unhealthy components.
Hopefully.
So, well, no,
Yeah.
not hopefully, definitely. Once we're all building space, personal space contraptions for ourselves, we're going to push one another. It's not just we're going to all want the best one.
Yeah.
And we're going to insist that be the case, just like we do with cars.
when I said hopefully, what I mean is that, like, hopefully they will be, like, healthy, friendly competition. That's what motivates them. What's not hopeful is that they could be robotic, emotionless things that have transcended biological needs, and that they just have a function. That function is seeding intelligent life in the universe and establishing, just like you would be a farmer and you would go out and leave hay for the animals.
Needs are primitive.
Yeah, they are primitive, but we're always moving into some more and more complex direction. Technologically, it seems like that's never going to stop.
Right.
And the only thing that makes sense to me is that we're doing something because that's like what we're literally designed to do. We have all these things that sort of motivate people, and greed and
Yeah.
lust and curiosity.
Yeah.
But what we're doing is we're always making better things.
Yeah.
Constantly making better things, which
Yeah.
would lead ultimately to the creation of a higher life form, some more intelligent, emotionless being. And that's the scary thought, is that all this life out there is life that was created by biological creatures who had these desires and needs that ultimately led to them making a better version of them. And then that is like the butterfly that comes out of the cocoon.
As soon as we put people in space, we became aliens that day, right?
Right. Yeah.
A lot of things are perspective.
That's true. I mean, you could say you're a camper, but you really only go in a tent in your yard. You're still kind of camping.
Well,
but that's what we're
I'm
doing
saying
as far as space travel.
Our guy has put a date on the Mars colonization, though, right?
Yeah, but he's also put a date on the Roadster. When that Tesla Roadster's coming out, that motherfucker's never going to see the light of day. When is that car coming out?
No, because
Something about it the other day.
That car is supposed to be out for years.
Yeah, it's supposed to be out 2 or 3 years ago, I think.
that's part of being a billionaire.
Sure.
It's not worth putting out something that's not right. It doesn't matter how bad it's wanted.
Well, he actually explained that. He said it was manufacturing is insanely difficult. And the way he explained it, you don't consider it because people just manufacture things, think it's normal. But he was like, the process of manufacturing, especially like a car, an electric car, insanely difficult.
He had a harder time doing that Cybertruck than he did space stuff.
Cybertruck's hard. What's all folded steel? It's this fucking massive 7,000 plus pound folded steel truck that goes 0 to 60 in 3 seconds, and it looks like it's from the future. It looks like if you were going to watch
It's the hottest thing on Mars.
It's crazy. Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like the most futuristic car ever.
Right.
Yeah, but
As kids, that's what we drew.
I don't know when we're going to Mars, and I don't know who the fuck's going to do that. That's a 6-month journey, and you're just hoping.
So what? Several billionaires were talked into getting into a capsule with limited air to go a long way down.
Bro, that's a dark way to die. Just knowing that you chose to
just
do
know,
it.
even if you're a racist hearing this, all death is dark. So
What I mean is the last moments must be horrific.
no more
creaking.
no more horrific than anyone else's.
I know, but there's something about the choice of being, thousands of feet under the water.
No, it's
and
being a
knowing that
billionaire.
It's crushing.
Your soul dies long before I could have done anything. This is what I chose.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, that death.
That guy could be fishing in Maui right now. With a nice cold beer, hanging out with his friends, listening to some music. Instead, he hears.
Right.
He hears that carbon fiber starting to crack. God damn.
It's already done at that point.
Yep,
None of
it's
that's
done.
happening.
They knew those people were dead a long time ago, which is interesting because I didn't know how sophisticated the underwater listening devices are. But they have these super sophisticated underwater listening devices everywhere to make sure that Russia's not sneaking up on us. Because Russia will sneak up on a motherfucker. Russia snuck up on people before.
Sir, none of that is for Russia.
You think it's for aliens?
None of that is for Russia.
Do you think it's for aliens? That would be the wildest shit of all time. They have underwater listening devices because they knew that aliens were under there.
Okay, let's see if this is weed talk or not.
Let's go.
So, which one do we know more about? Do we know more about space or do we know more about the oceans?
We know more about space. Yeah. Quite a bit more.
Okay, so
Yeah.
yeah. And part of that is because
The ocean's very difficult to penetrate.
At some point, it's government.
They're hiding things from us. I would hide things from people. I would definitely make it illegal for you to have a submarine. You could have a yacht. Don't get crazy. You can't go underwater. I got to know where the fuck you are. If I need to collect taxes.
Well,
If you're floating around, I could pull up.
It was a conspiracy theory at one point that you know the government got bases inside of mountains.
Right. Well, until they had to expand the boundary behind Area 51 and make Area 51 larger, they never even admitted it existed. It wasn't until the Obama administration that they actually came out and said, Area 51's a real thing. We need more land. Do you ever see the video of Bob Lazar, the guy who used to work there? Have you ever seen that guy? That's a
I was
wild one.
following old Bob Lazar. Yeah.
What do you think about that? Do you think he's telling the truth?
Here's the thing, Joe. Just an opinion, but what I find fascinating is the lack of imagination in any of these stories where imagination could apply. Like
if someone was bullshitting, you'd see evidence of it.
Like,
Right? Because that's the
right,
thing. If people
right.
bullshit, they kind of bullshit about everything.
right.
Because they think they're smart enough to trick you. No one's smart enough to come up with one story only their whole life. Their whole life, they're straight, down the middle, square, tell the truth all the time. But one time, they decide to have a whopper of a lie and just fabricate this thing and structure
No,
it.
you're seeing somebody tell you a story that is the only explanation for certain things that are happening.
Yeah. Especially he tells you a story, and then you have independent people who also used to work for the government now becoming whistleblowers and saying there's a crashed retrieval program. Crashed UFO retrieval program.
It goes back to what I'm saying, Joe. This is how you say this without getting canceled. Look, you do think they're doing something, don't you?
They're doing something. They wouldn't tell us
because
everything they're doing.
we want to believe like
Yeah.
nobody's doing nothing. Like no, we're doing stuff. Like
They're doing something. They're just not telling us.
that's part of it, though, right?
You know what the people involved in the retrieval call the vehicles? They call them donations.
Right. Well, because
That's what they think they are. They think that the limited times that these crafts have shown themselves.
you as the driver or the occupant didn't mean for that to be your destination, and you don't take anything. You only give. Therefore, that's why it's known as a donation. Because it's like it's what you would say if one of those meteors that we were talking about, if one just the size of a refrigerator landed in your backyard. Like $1 billion can land in your backyard. Easy peasy.
Or obliterate an entire city and send everybody back to the Stone Age. That's the wildest one.
Right, but it's not that wild if you look at the moon.
Right.
The moon shows you the evidence that that's a thing.
Pelted.
Right, like,
If we could just look at it, it's just filled with holes.
right.
Big fucking craters all over that you could see with the naked eye.
Well, I'm saying most of the people that are in America and drive in urban settings know what potholes are. And so, it's the same thing.
Yeah. This is a weird time where people are just starting to pay attention to so many of these subjects. And so many of these things, like, are we alone? Have there been advanced civilizations before? How did we become us?
It's been a conversation at all points in
Yeah.
time. Like,
But more people are having it now without fear of being labeled an idiot.
well, it's because information is now a free commodity, whereas in different points in history, it wasn't like that. Like,
Right. It was protected.
You didn't make enough money to get access to this information. And no matter where you're looking, information is the driving force of almost every war and conflict.
Yeah.
It was about the place that you conquered. Not only did you conquer them, but you got a chance to know what they knew. And that you found was more important than anything else. And that's
Well, think about the people that lived just before they translated the Bible from Latin. How many people couldn't read it?
Well, that was part of the experience that you were getting from church, was the fact that that it was being read to you.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Not what we have currently, where you have the book and they have the book, but this person is literally reciting the word of God to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he becomes the holder of all that information and the only one.
All holders of all information are that.
Yep. It's like a human pattern
Mm-hmm.
that people follow, even if they just run an internet company, even if they run a social media company. They follow that same pattern.
Well, because everything in the universe, everything on this planet, everything that we could look at in the wildlife or in the plant life, or everything is a formula. Everything is that way.
Yeah.
And that's one of the, the science and math go together with the occult and alchemy, and all of these things are based on things like even the Smurfs story, right?
The Smurfs are based on something?
Well, religious people would say, oh, you can't watch the Smurfs because it's bad because they have witchcraft and stuff in there. But the whole thing is, it's based on this, the homunculus, the idea that you can create a human life form without a mother or a father. So,
Really? That's what the Smurfs are based on?
What two Smurfs do you think
I
got
don't know
together
much about Smurf lore.
and had Smurfette? She was the only female of the Smurfs. So,
It's a good question.
well, it's not a question in the Smurfs. They tell you that Gargamel made Smurfette. But, in somebody's history, I don't want to say what race of people or group of people it is, but in somebody's history, there was this homunculus thing.
Like a
And
genetically engineered human?
life form.
Life form.
Mm-hmm.
Creature.
Right.
Whoa.
And so, it's spoken of in history very sparingly. But, a lot of things in the world are about perception,
Yeah.
So we don't believe that there's clones. We don't believe that because we don't feel like we have the technology. But the truth is, if you go body part to body part, you'll go, what if I lost 2 legs? Well, we can give you 2 legs. Well, what about 2 arms? I can give you 2 arms. Okay, well, what about the heart? Yeah, no problem. What about the, like, we're already...
Yeah. All you'd have to do is make a clone brain dead. Figure out how to engineer a brain dead clone that'll grow organs for you.
Look,
And then they'll make cloning legal. Because then you'll never have to worry. Hey, Katt, you need a new heart? Guess what?
this is the same... This is the same pathway that everybody is on in all of these departments. Like, this is what you, like, people spend their life trying to find the cure for a cancer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And working as hard as they can every single day. You know what I mean? Unsuccessfully. Those are the type of people that help make the world go around, Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's all about information, and we'd be so close most of the time. Mm-hmm. But that's how you can see when we've had influence from something else.
Well, I think it's very possible that we have. It's just so frustrating when you want to know. It's one of those things where life would change forever if you had undeniable contact with something. If it would just change forever. Your perception of light, you just to drive through the In-N-Out drive-through would be different. Everything would be different.
Right, but you
Taking a shit would be different. There's aliens out there.
you could say that about smelling salts or mushrooms. Or you can say that about lots of things.
Yeah, but about that specifically, if we knew that was real, because I think it's probably true, but I still hold open the possibility that it's all bullshit.
Here's the whole thing. No one who has ever seen more space or the universe than you and I has ever seen anything that was bullshit
What do you mean?
in the universe.
What I mean is like fake UFO footage. There's a lot of fake footage. I would want to see, if you could see something yourself, and I have good friends that have. I have good friends that have had experiences that they say there is no fucking way that is us, that this is something else.
Right. Just understand that part of the job in any of these circumstances is to kick up kerfuffle. Like,
Right.
that's part of it. Like, if you live in Florida, you see how many times things go off into space, and you know that there's a pattern between that and government airplanes, and like our stories of cooperation have been nothing but cooperative, as they could only be. Like, we don't hold any leverage.
I think some of the shit that we're seeing is our stuff.
Right. I'm saying, but nobody will have a way of, like, as advanced as we are, we still got to let that balloon fly over, right?
Yeah. What the fuck is that? That's the most obvious shit ever. That's your neighbor peeking over the fence.
No, it is not. It is your neighbor's drone
Yeah, your neighbor's drone.
in your
hovering
yard.
over your house. Yeah.
Right,
Ridiculous.
right. Filled with a piñata of the next COVID.
Right. I mean, what are they doing? Flying robots.
It's not like that. It's not like that. In the world of flying things, sometimes things go off course. You see what I'm saying?
Do you think that's all it was?
Especially spy stuff.
Do you think that's all it was? It went off course? That it just magically happened to go near all the military bases?
Don't say magically. Say wind.
The wind got it?
Well, I'm saying.
Bro, they just flew those things over, and they hope that Biden didn't notice. They said they flew over during Trump's administration, too, but they didn't tell him because they didn't want him to shoot him down.
Neither of those stories is true. That information was out
There was
there.
one like 2 days
Right.
ago, right?
Another one, yeah.
They said this was a hobbyist, though, but
Oh.
that's what they said.
Well, this doesn't count.
Yeah.
This doesn't count. And the way that you know immediately is it says over Utah. Like, that would be where, you know.
That's like White Sands, right? No, that's New Mexico, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's got to be military bases in Utah, though, right?
Well, I'm saying in the
Actually, the image I showed was
in
from
the map wise.
the first one, the Chinese surveillance balloon is what this says.
Oh, that's what this one is? This is the one from February 2023.
Right.
That's the one they shot down. Look at that. So it's just a balloon with solar power and some kind of camera. How weird.
Not weird. Not weird.
Well, not weird if you just think about human patterns. We've got to see what the enemy's up to. Just fly over, take some pictures, see what the fuck is going on with these people.
I'm saying we can say whatever we want, but we're civilized and maybe they're not civilized. So if you weren't civilized, then maybe part of your job is airborne weaponry.
Yeah.
So you got to test it out. You got to see what it can do. Yeah. And yeah, they're going to go off course. Huh? Okay.
Well, that's not airborne weaponry, but we have a lot of it.
Information is.
That's true. Information is weaponry.
information is.
Yeah.
Just knowing what the conversations are over this wide swath of people is worth money. Because at the end of all these information driven society places is analytics, and that's what this is. Yeah, I probably said too much.
No, it's all right. We'll be fine. I just wonder where it's all headed, because it seems like we're building towards an event. I think about it all the time. It seems like it's not.
It's time to get a bunker.
It seems like it might be a good time to get a bunker, or at least a supply of water.
Well, here's the thing. If you follow what becomes accessible, that's how you can generally see where things are going, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the true magicalness of Elon Musk, you know? Is take that guy out of the story and just tell that story, and
Yeah. Yeah, he's moving us into so many different directions all at the same time. The electric car thing, the internet satellite thing, and now this Neuralink thing. The Neuralink thing is the craziest
because
one. Because
all of these things are connected in these higher upper echelon conversations. I'm saying you see the same conversation with Tesla or Da Vinci, or like information is what is limited, and whole industries can be built upon your ability to know how certain things are going to hit certain people. And this was before we called things promotion and marketing. You know what I mean? That's Hollywood is not really there to entertain you. Like, that's great that happens, but propaganda is something that is important to all civilizations.
Well, propaganda in Hollywood movies is built into the ingredients list. It's like, if you want flour, you need wheat. Like, you're going to have to get the wheat. And if you want to be able to make movies about certain subjects, you have to be willing to work with some people that, it would be nice if you made it so that this is what we're trying to accomplish, and this is showing the negative side of this other society, and this is and this is our hero. This is our hero who's going to go do America's bidding and go over there, and you're like, okay. And those movies are successful, and so they continue this relationship, and you become a bit of a propaganda arm for the government. And in turn, they don't fuck with you.
Right. But that's what makes information so powerful is, you don't care how people feel about the ritual. It's about, does following the ritual work?
Yeah.
And so you can fool yourself into thinking there isn't one, but the evidence will be clear. So like when I be like, oh, these guys are wearing dresses, everybody's like, oh, he keeps talking about people wearing dresses. No, it's not.
That is a weird thing.
It's not like that. Look at it from a different way. Look at it. Show me one person that ever wore a dress in Hollywood unsuccessfully. That's how you understand what a ritual is. So 20 years ago, I knew that transgenders was going to be a thing. It wasn't because I was a prophet. It's just I had gotten so much information that I understood that things are secular. So I understood that the earliest I had seen that word transgender was Baphomet, the transgender. And so I knew that in the ritual of Baphomet, the transgender, to show allegiance to him, you had to kiss his ass ring.
Really?
And it said both of those things. So I knew that both of those things will become popular in the future, and that somehow calling people the goat would be normalized over the sheep being always the most popular reference.
God damn, we got some good weed, Katt. Jesus Christ.
It just must be the weed
I'm trying
talk.
to figure out how to jump in on that.
Right. Which is my only goal.
I always wonder whether or not all the stories in the Bible, it's just where we are experiencing it. Like the mark of the beast thing that we were talking about earlier. If that is not, I think if you had to tell a story for so many years,
Yeah.
before anybody ever even figured out how to write it down, and you're telling a story about a civilization that allowed people to put brain implants in them, and then all of a sudden the brain implants were hijacked by machines, and people became just meat zombies, controlled by corporations. That would be the mark of the beast. That would be a demonic thing. If a demon tricked human beings into wearing a hat that turned you into a zombie, that demon would be like a famous character in books and folklore. But that demon exists, and it's just technology. It just shows itself through this desire for the newest, latest innovations that are going to constantly fuel it becoming more and more powerful. Until one day it tricks you into letting it into its head, like a vampire. Like the vampire stories, you had to let them in, remember? That was the thing. You had to invite them in. And if you invited them in, you're fucked. But if you didn't invite them in, for some reason, they weren't allowed to kill you. That's almost like
Here's
the story.
thing. You have to be able to benefit from the zombie. Like, there's no benefit in that taken out of context. Like, if you're making them zombies so that they can mine for you, then there's a story of that over there. Like that's the whole thing, is when you look at these ancient writings, they're not saying like, yeah, so he was from another world, and we had to bring him our kids, and he would eat them in front of us. Like, they're not telling those stories. They're saying, like, agriculture and
Knowledge,
literature
yeah.
and
Cosmology.
right.
Explain the origin of life. Yeah.
Like,
show the double helix DNA.
To a fault.
Yeah.
Nobody's
Yeah.
saying anything outside of mathematic parameters.
Well, the wildest stuff is when you look at some of those old Sumerian tablets and you see how they had the solar system mapped out. They had the sun in the center, looked just like a sun with all the marks around it. It had Venus where it should be, Jupiter where it should be, Uranus where it should be. They were all in the right spots. It's crazy. Like
The Ethiopian
6,000
tribe have
the
the same.
Dogons. Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
crazy.
Like, no,
Crazy.
it's not. Yeah, but there is no craziness.
All right.
Everything lines up. The same grids.
Look at that. That is just nuts, man. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what the conventional explanation for that is, because that Zechariah Sitchin guy who said all this stuff, he was often criticized. That people said that he took things too far, that his analysis went too far, and he just went into speculation. But god damn, a lot of the stuff that he was saying is like you could see the deep implication in the actual tablets themselves. They show these gigantic beings with these little tiny people like sitting on their laps, and the people have tails. Have you seen those? It looks like genetic engineering.
Maybe it's a tail, maybe it's piping. What?
Right. Oh,
what?
Jesus! Right, it could be piping.
You understand
Right.
what I'm?
Oh yeah, of course.
What
it
I'm
could
saying
be.
is nobody's telling these outlandish.
Right. But they're all kind of all saying the same thing. There's some higher power that comes and gives you structure, tells you what to do and how to live. And every society
Information.
has information.
That's what they
it.
give you.
They give you information. Yeah.
every story, every civilization,
Yep.
every time.
Yep. Yeah, that's it. And that's what we're all thirsty for.
Right.
You know? And when
Well,
people
we're
aren't,
thirsty to monetize.
that's too. But also humans individually are thirsty for information. We always want information. We want gossip, we want news, we want bullshit, we want science. Especially if you have an appetite for, things that make you think. There's so much information that people are just constantly consuming. There's bullshit information like TikTok and nonsense that just passes you by. But there's still...
Yeah, but none of that stuff is nonsense.
Well, it's not all nonsense. What it is
It's just another
something
offshoot.
to get your attention.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is what all of this is about.
Mm-hmm.
From the Roman Colosseums
Yep.
to, it doesn't matter,
Yeah, the Roman
King
Colosseums,
Arthur's court time, like...
that's the first viral videos, right? Like that's,
Right. Like,
they would tell viral stories.
yeah, this is all about this experience of being a human being in this amount of time.
Yeah.
And interaction between other people who have done this thing you're doing.
Yeah. And in the middle of you doing it, you realize you only have a certain amount of time. And you're like, God damn it, I'm just starting to figure this game out.
Right. So understand I was probably like 5 years old when I had that moment. So I lucked out because it happened to me so early. But it wasn't about I got that part. So I thought at like that age, I was thinking, okay, so I don't know how long I'm going to live because I'm kind of conflicted about how long people live. 100's a good number, but there's been people that 600, it seems. So I don't know. Seems like this. But I'm just going to space it out 7 years at a time. So every 7 years, that's going to be a life, so I don't waste anything. So I couldn't wait till I got 7 because that was going to be the start of my first life.
Why'd you break it into sevens? Just randomly?
I don't know what randomly means. It's a seldom seen thing in the universe. Randomly.
So just 7 seemed like a good number? Was it instinctual or was it
To people around the globe.
7? Yeah.
It's a great
It's a lucky number. That's why I asked.
Yeah, well, I'm saying not for no reason. I'm saying if you like math, I'm saying it's a great number. That's how you know that the pyramids are about something because of what they represent mathematically.
Mm-hmm.
That level of mathematical information is another step in civilization.
Yeah, the idea that was just by accident, like when there's
Trigonometry is not by accident.
Also, that they figured out like there's some measurement. I don't want to bore anybody with the details because I'll butcher it too, but it's the measurements of the height and width and the mass of the pyramid in comparison to the circumference of Earth. It's like they knew so much about like where constellations would be at certain times of the year, like in the summer solstice. It's just wild shit, man. That they did that all in stone.
But not that wild though, because we know that if you were traveling, that buoys are out there and they're out there for certain reasons, and we understand satellite positioning, and no, it makes perfect sense.
Imagine that's what the pyramids were. That was their ultimate buoy. That was home base.
Well, I'm saying it's not different than how we would treat a planet that we had not been to before.
No, not at all. Not different at all. I mean,
we would locate where's the best place to land, where is the most hospitable of this place, and we would put something there.
And let's imagine that we landed somewhere and we found this lush, green, vibrant planet, and we found those hobbit people, and those are the most advanced people. Those Homo floresiensis, is that what it is? Floresiensis. So this creature, this 3-foot tall human, imagine if we found them. I guarantee you someone would want to introduce them to tools, introduce them to how to make fire, introduce them to figure out language, try to transfer their language to our language, try to teach them our stuff, try to genetically engineer them and turn them into something different. If we have the tools that we have now, like CRISPR, and we found some primitive apes, and there was like a massive population of Australopithecus on a planet, and we said, look, they're on the way.
Right.
Let's just give them a little boost. Just give them a little boost.
Right.
And that's what the
But
people
not
think.
too much.
Not too much.
And that's what you see with
Yeah.
all of the UFO stories is they keep popping up in these times when we as a civilization are getting ready to F it up
Right.
in real time.
In real time. Yeah. You know, that's like my comedy club. That's why I named the
mothership.
rooms. I named the rooms Fat Man and Little Boy.
Oh.
Because the UFOs started coming after the big bombs. That's when they really started like ramping up their presence. Like if you look at all the reports, the flying saucer reports, they're all like 1947, 1950, 1952.
If you cross-engineer our shit, it's going to show up on our radar at some point. Like,
Yeah.
this information is...
Especially when we're using that information very recklessly. Wild. Just
Even in the
eliminating
Bible
cities.
story, the Tower of
Babel.
Right.
Yeah.
This story is that, you know, with everybody speaking the same language, it intensified shit getting done.
Yeah.
And they could do
Anything.
stuff that
Yeah.
was hazardous.
I think they're very close to being able to translate language instantaneously in real time. Because they can do it right now with Samsung phones. They have the new Galaxy S24 Ultra.
Animals are doing it worldwide.
Oh, for sure. They have some sort of a language. They have some sort of a communication. There's something going on with animals that's nonverbal.
And with all of our, and with all of us.
You know Tom Green? You know Tom Green, right?
Yes.
Tom Green was here, and he has a mule. And he said that you have like a connection with that animal where you know you want to go left, and you start like looking left, and that thing starts going left. He goes, it's really crazy. It's spooky. He goes, you develop it. It takes time. They have to earn your respect. But once you develop this like loving relationship with this animal, you're tuned into it like an avatar creature. Just like when they would lock on to their dragons. He's like, dude, it's like that.
I have that with women. and with ducks and geese and Canadian geese and goats, like I have. No, but understand, again, that's part of some religion's story, is that one of the gifts was the relationship between humans and the animal world. And it's something that all civilizations have been able to use, and it's stayed true, you know?
Yeah. It's amazing the relationship humans have with animals.
Yeah,
Especially
whether it's a
dogs.
horse. No, there's no especially. Like, all
of them
we
have their own
abuse
beautiful
some of
thing.
them, and it...
Well, just horses don't interact with people the same way a dog does. That's all I'm saying. It's like the interaction you have with dogs is almost like psychic. Like dogs are like your little friends, you know. They know when you're in a bad mood. They know when you hurt your foot, you know. They when they're happy to see you every fucking time, bar none.
I have that relationship with everybody that's... all animals and like special needs people. It's the innocence and the purity that
purity.
you get. It's not
Yeah.
always good.
Right.
But it's so...
We can
Yeah.
learn from them.
No,
that.
we have learned.
Yeah, we should know it, but we're scared. People are scared of other people being shitty, and we put up like shields, and we worry about.
Well,
running
it's
into
been
bad
proven
people. That's real.
historically that you know,
Yeah, it has.
Cain and Abel is a real story. That
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean? Like people are so violent these days, and that's true. But people have been violent.
Yeah.
Like there was this point where humankind learned that they could take a life, and it changed things. You know.
Well, especially take a life quickly, with like when they figured out swords and bows and arrows and shit. What do you think the story of Sodom and Gomorrah is about? Because I was just reading that last
Cleanliness.
night. Cleanliness? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what took them out? That like plague?
Okay.
Because
This is
the
69 times I've gotten canceled in this one conversation.
The stories of Sodom and Gomorrah, there's two speculations.
Right.
One of them was that God decided that they weren't hospitable enough. And the other one was God had decided that there was too much sin.
Wait a minute, that's not speculation. That's in the book.
Right.
That first one.
Right, but the
second one?
respectability part, that they were not hospitable enough.
Yeah, that was a part of it.
That's part of it too. So God had just decided this. I'm gonna fuck up this whole city.
No.
Right. What's the real story though?
Okay, so
Turned it into pillars of salt. 2 cities, right? And he said, "Find me 50 good men, and I won't do this." And then I think he said, "Find me 10 good men."
Okay, so this story is generally used to say that God doesn't like homosexuals. This is the story that highlights that.
Okay, so it's not just sin. It's not just because sodomy is even technically like oral sex.
The meaning of that word comes from
Sodom and Gomorrah. Right.
Right.
So that's why I said it includes a lot of things people think is deviant sex. Yo, I gotta piss so bad. Can we come back to this? Sodom and Gomorrah. Come back to this.
I
gotta
would
take a
love
leak.
that.
Okay, let's take a leak. Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yeah. So it tells several stories, but there had to be an explanation for what the story said happened to 2 cities of people, right?
Right. There had to be a reason to tell that story. Most likely.
To tell this story, it requires all of those people to really have been killed in those circumstances. And historical evidence shows us that something like that happened. Like, those 2 cities really did exist.
Do we know where Sodom and Gomorrah was?
Are you kidding? I know a guy who will pull that information up so fast and
Really?
put it on a screen.
Young Jamie? Like, is there speculation as
His
to what part?
sidekick is awake now. You're going to see the
Carl.
best part of him when Carl wakes up.
Carl's awake now. He's a
Yeah.
3:30 waker.
Right. As we all would be if we were in charge of our schedules.
Yeah, probably. What do they think that it? Like, is there real speculation as to where it was?
Mm-hmm.
Where do they think it was?
It's not speculation. A lot of these places just changed names. Like,
Right.
they used to be called this, and
Right.
then they later were called something else. But
Like Iraq used to be Sumer.
right,
Yeah.
like these are literal places
Yeah.
that you can find on the real map. That was a part of that biblical rabbit hole I was telling you about. Is just seeing my only concern is, how do these ancient Islamic, Judea, how do you say that, those 3 that exist, that all religion is built on, Judeo-Christian, Islamic, that whole belief system of how that operates, right? So you see they have question marks here, right? Only because they know that there were cities there.
Oh, so they have wreckage there, or
Like, for example, if everybody in Gaza talks about going there, it exists. If everybody in Hebron has family members that live there, it exists. If everybody, we know that.
So they think that was right near the Dead Sea. Wow.
Well, they didn't think it any differently than they thought. Tal al-Hammam, if I'm pronouncing that correct. Like, these were places, like,
Yeah.
people throughout history, if you show any body of water, those are always hot spots. Water is its own commodity and currency at all points, and that was the Dead Sea. But that's everywhere.
Was the Dead Sea always the Dead Sea? Because, goddamn, there's so much interesting stuff that came from that part of the world. That's where they found the Dead Sea
But a lot of
Scrolls.
the stuff that was supposed to be unbelievable was all based on something real. Like, right, how long was it the Dead Sea? Long before they knew what high salt content was.
Right.
Or they might have called it salt content sea. But what they were trying to say is stuff's not growing here. Okay? Don't come here as a fishing spot. Right?
But it's a good spot to gather salt, which at that point in time is as valuable as anything on earth. Salt, they'd go to war for salt. Salt allowed people to preserve their food. Salt was insanely valuable.
Understand the whole portions, because at the end of the day, for all people, it comes down to quality of life. So the jump that was made between people eating food that you had to kill yourself catching just so that you could put it over something hot so that you could get it where you could eat it, and eating it like you, that experience to seasoning your food and, having order from the best place because they
Eating
do,
too much
right?
spaghetti so you get fat.
Right. That's part of the greatness of human experience and has been.
Yeah.
That the part of being a king or being royalty through all civilizations was being able to experience the best culinary things, because if you believe in God, that's one of the attributes that makes you believe in Him, because every vegetable, let's say, that you would have, when it gets to the point where it would spoil and it would be useless and you'd have to throw it away, it becomes worth more money.
Because it's compost.
No. So,
What do you mean?
like, if you have potatoes, right? And so you have potatoes, but now you got too many potatoes. You could get vodka from that. And if you have too much rice, you could get sake from that. And if you got too much wheat and barley, you could get. And if you everything that you could have too much of, we got too many grapes, you could get wine with that. That's why alcohol is called spirits, because it's literally a gift from God. Just something that's just for your milk. Once it's going bad, that's where cheese comes in. Like, whatever it is you would be having as a commodity. Grapes to raisins, wherever, like, this is why we believe mathematics. Because of the certain things that are just done for the enjoyment of,
So you think there's a reason why all these things exist, why like rotting fruit can become alcohol, alcohol can put you in a different state of mind. All of it is connected together so that you discover it and figure it out.
unless you can figure out the benefit that a mushroom gets for being hallucinogenic. Or the frog, that's the special ones. What special benefit did that frog get from that?
Right. Why is a frog making DMT?
is he living a better life as a frog? Does he live under
Right.
the effects residually of?
Constantly carrying around DMT.
Right.
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 Well, they secrete it when they're scared, right? Isn't that the whole idea? That you take them and you
Yeah.
rub them on a windshield?
It's
and it dries
weaponized
out?
from the beginning.
Yeah. Right.
Right.
They're scared because they think they're going to die, so their body's producing it,
Well,
just like ours.
the inventor of perfumes and colognes was whoever saw a skunk in action first, because that's when someone was able to see how powerful smell is, even from a distance, and that the aerosol, like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
we've learned so much from that world. That's how we know. Like, we were able to look at animals and insects and understand that we would be able to do the helicopter after we got past Orville and Wilbur in Dayton, Ohio. You know what I mean? Like, we understood because we had seen the hummingbird.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, we had seen how things work.
Have you ever seen those Egyptian gliders? They found these gliders, these wooden things that they carved that look like fucking planes, and they were in some of the tombs that they had found. Thousands of years old. Looks like a fucking airplane. I mean, straight up looks
Da
exactly
Vinci
like an airplane.
is saying that these are things talked about there. Like,
Forever.
even if you're just following Jesus, right? Okay, so you believe that he was perfect and that this was how he grew up and got it. When it comes to him going to get information, he went to this specific place that we're talking about to get information and to get taught. And that's not a hidden fact. Like, it's been that way. So, you can't be reading all of these stories and not see how everything lines up.
It does kind of line up in a strange way. You try to decipher it from all the different cultures. They all have their different versions of it. But at the end of it, there's a lot of similarities if you follow the stories and like what are they saying? I mean,
Right.
all of them have some sort of a creation myth.
Well,
But isn't that odd though
Yeah,
that a creature, if you think of human beings as a creature, that a human being that's never created a being itself has this idea that a magical force that is all-knowing and all-loving created, not they evolved, not they came from this and they learned, they got better, but that they were created. And that seems like a universal story, the created story.
that's only because the duck that's outside of my house right now believes that. So so the duck is sitting on 6 eggs on a nest right by the house, right by a 250-pound dog, alibi, and believes that it has life that it's sitting on, and it's going to come from that, and that there's somebody there that looks out for them and makes sure they're fed. And in the Bible story, it says the sparrows said, like Jesus said, who feeds the sparrows? Like worldwide, there's how many birds? Like billions and billions and billions of birds. Like, who's feeding them every day? Like, real talk. Right. Yeah, because what you're looking for is you need to find a mistake. That's how we would know maybe there's no creator. But we don't go through our regular life seeing things and thinking nobody created it. Like, that would be as weird as us being in this room going, nobody made those curtains, nobody made these cameras,
Right.
nobody made, like, what? We never have evidence of that.
What do you think? Why do you think people have a reluctance to take in the idea of a creator? Like, what do you think about it to them is there's some people that fancy themselves as intellectuals and they refuse to take in a concept for which there's no proof. And that's what they'll say. They use this very reductionist view of what God is. And they'll say there's no proof. And that, they're a staunch atheist. And a lot of them, they even talk like religious people. Almost their atheism becomes a religion. Instead of being completely open-minded to the possibility that you have zero idea what happens when you die.
A lot of people that are atheists don't like God, and God would have to exist for them to not like. So the whole thing is, if you were to believe in the Big Bang, you would have to believe that had happened several times throughout history, just because that's what we've seen from everything that's been created.
We don't see one individual unique thing that exists and is responsible for all things, except the Big Bang. That was what Terrence McKenna always said.
There's too much thought that went into certain things, like the fact that you can study all the butterflies and not one of them has a sense of humor. You know what I mean? But me and you do. And like it goes for all humans. If universally, if we see somebody trip and fall, we all laugh no matter what our back. Like there are certain like there's that. I'm trying to think of what the reasons are to not believe, but I can't remember what they are because it doesn't line up with anything. Like and we would have had to have gone in space and there'd be no other planets, just this one.
Just that's it.
For this story to make sense universally. Like we're at a terrible time in history to say, oh, we don't believe in people from outer space when we can go to outer space. Like it's almost asinine to try to make both of those make sense. And to think that there's our sun is not the biggest sun, right?
Not even close.
But it's the biggest sun we ever gonna see,
yeah.
Right? So it's the biggest fucking sun, right? But the truth is, no, it's way bigger. Like, right, like that thought went into picking this particular sun for this planet and the moon and the positioning of, much as if you were building a house, like you would put particulars in like Kid Rock, to make sure that throughout the time period of history you put a stamp and a mark on it.
Right. Yeah.
That's why if you were extraterrestrial, let's say, and you were going to build one building on this planet, it would be the pyramid.
100%.
Like most people don't even understand that there was a whole outer covering on that thing and gold cap at
gold
the top.
Cap,
like
smooth limestone.
It was a planetary monument.
Yeah.
Right.
You might be right. It makes more sense than the idea that these people pushed those things into place and that got them hundreds of miles out of the mountain with ropes. Shut the fuck up.
Throughout history, we have not done things that did not profit us, and not 150 years from now.
Right.
Now.
Right. Now.
Always. All through history.
Right.
So to be thinking that this particular civilization, oh, you know what we all care about? When he gonna die. I dedicate my life to when he gonna die. I'm gonna die while
Yeah.
No, history doesn't say that in any way.
It's also the sheer mass. 3,200,000 stones in the Great Pyramid. That is so much mass.
All of the wonders of the world are truly that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there's a bunch of them too, man. The wild shit that they're digging out of Turkey is nuts too. That's the Göbekli Tepe place where they found 12,000-year-old structures back at the time when they thought people were just using sticks and stones, and hunter-gatherers.
No,
No, they had
because the
stone.
whole time they were saying that it was there.
Yep.
But understand, these are the things worthy of a war, just so you know.
Worthy of a war. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? All throughout history,
Mm-hmm.
like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the only thing a rational person can take from Hitler's story is being able to see what if you had unlimited resource and ability to just follow global rabbit holes. You find out that most stuff that is labeled BS is not BS. BS is very hard to come by.
Well, the Hitler thing is real weird because the Nazis are really into the occult.
At some point in the information process, that was required. So,
It was required to be into the occult.
so in like the world of medicine, like certain things before they had a label of being toxic, you just knew don't touch it. Like, you know what I mean? You didn't know what it was good for, but those occultists were the keepers of things that did work, not things that did not work.
Right.
So, but throughout history, that whole process of thinking, anything that could fall into the alchemy conversation was seen as occult based. It meant doing something unnatural. So even like the blacksmith was considered a part of that world through most of history.
Really?
Because he had an unnatural relationship with elements. He was able to take this and turn it into things.
Forged steel. Yeah. Oh, that makes sense. Yeah. I always wondered, like, at the heart of alchemy.
All processes that are
Yeah.
discussed at these pyramids and all, because they're all processes.
Yeah. I've always wondered if alchemy is trying to regain lost knowledge. Like if at one point in time they did know how to just make metals. They did know how to create elements. They did know how to change lead into gold or whatever the fuck they wanted to do.
That's what this whole line was consisted of.
Yeah.
But it required money and time, and all royalty, all kings, all great leaders of the world, this is what you paid for, was people that could make things happen. So being able to understand the weather and to then be able to manipulate it in any way possible was valuable all through human history. All the way before we get to the seeding of clouds part.
Do you think they had the ability to manipulate weather back then? It'd be wild if they did, if that's what caused the Sahara Desert to emerge. Because all that shit used to be lush tropical rainforest. Imagine if that's humans fucking with cloud seeding. They just ruin it.
Well, that wouldn't explain how that has its own environment that's just as valuable. You know what I mean? It goes to further back up what I was telling you about how it seems like somebody put thought into every scenario you might be in. So let's say you lived in one of them deserts and all you had was cactus. Guess what? You could take that cactus and make tequila too.
True.
Like at every part of the process, like
People figure something out.
not the people figure something out. Something is there to be figured out.
Right.
Right. Right.
Well, that's what the indigenous people say about ayahuasca. They said that the plants told them how to make it. The mushrooms told them how to make it.
As a person that loves nature, you know that most of your experience in nature is based upon how other things react. You know what I mean? So you don't know that this is poisonous except for the fact that it doesn't look like anything's eating whatever's on here. And looks like everything is avoiding it. Like, these are real things. And that requires creation as well. The whole consequence thing and the fact that this animal is able to live with this thing that's going to be doing damage to you.
So let me ask you this, because this is the end conclusion of that. If creation is real, and if God is real, and if God created us...
Wait a minute, hold on. Let's be specific. Creation of what? I just told you about my ducks and her eggs. That creation is real for sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
I'm not...
And life is going to come from that.
Right.
Right.
What I mean is that God created everything, and that there really is a reason for all of it. What is the reason for us? Like, if God really did make all these things synchronize together and put us here.
Right. First of all, I'm grateful, even if you're not.
I'm very grateful.
I'm
very grateful.
What an experience.
Amazing time.
Right? And if you take time and space out of things, right? Like, the people that sold me Call of Duty, right, gave me a great experience that I've been enjoying for years and years and years. And the person that I am on that platform is the person I would like to be all... An experience has been delivered. It would be like saying, what was the thinking on somebody making an amusement park? To amuse people so that they could have a full experience. And be able to enjoy it. You know that because things happen, like the humor thing that I was telling you about, and health, how important good health is over the opposite of that, and how everything works without you needing to micromanage it. Your heart doesn't require you to count its beats, and what's the percentage of brains that are working perfectly versus the ones that are not? Like, all of the processes needed to run you are just too well done to be thrown away like not important, because if you learn about it, you'll learn about the whole workings of the universe. And it's like that in too many different places for us to ignore. And the fact that we get a chance to have that experience while at the same time looking at a dog.
Right.
And understanding that our life is 1 billion times greater than Fido's. And we can make sure Fido has a glorious life. Yeah. And ours is still so magnificent that we're in control of certain things, and that we can not get things right and then get it right, and not know things and then know things. And then, you know, it's a wonderful experience that was created.
It is a wonderful experience. And we seem to have by far the most unique one on the planet. We seem very different than everything else. Very different than everything else.
Purposely.
Even though we're a part of it, purposely. That's why I always wonder.
Super efficient.
What are we here for? What is the purpose? Is it just to enjoy and be grateful, which is great? Like, one of the things that terrifies people, it's a very interesting concept that terrifies people. People are terrified of living the same life over and over and over again. If you tell people that the journey of your soul is that you will live your life over and over again until you get it right. And one day you'll get it right. In one lifetime you'll achieve enlightenment. But you're going to go through the same lifetime over and over and over again until you get it right. People are terrified of that. But I say,
right, but that
why?
will require a creator, though.
Sure it would. But what I'm saying is, why would you be terrified of that when you're not terrified to exist right now? Why are you terrified of existing right now forever? I don't find that terrifying. If you enjoy now. If you enjoy now is great.
Whenever you die is forever. You know what I mean? So I know and have known in my life that I'm going to live forever. I know I'll die, but I know I'm going to live forever until then, and then live beyond that.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that certainly is a better approach to life in that it gives you comfort. And that's what...
No, that's what history shows us. History has shown us that.
In what way?
That human beings are still here, not because of our wise decision making. Like, nobody's story says that. We've gotten assistance along the way that we needed it, and we have implemented it globally. This is why those one world people exist, because it's a very powerful concept to have and far too lucrative and beneficial to not be attempted.
Yeah, I mean, if I was going to run some global power organization, I would try to co-opt every single leader, try to suck them in, offer support, bring them out to wherever the fuck I have my big-ass meetings, fly everybody in private jets, talk about the climate crisis.
All organizations have to follow the same rules.
Yeah, that's wild.
Recruitment is an important facet of all. Like,
we have to get some young global leaders.
Well, understand, this is the only reason that we can talk about these big Illuminati-like entities at this period of time. It's just because of time. Like, they aged out. Like, you can't get in new, so everybody got decrepit over there, and they can't exchange, really, through this period of history. And so that's how we ended up with the Bob Lazars and everything. Throughout history, you could really, it was much easier to get people to not tell nobody.
Right.
As part of your job. You know what I mean?
Imagine going to a World Economic Forum party. What did those freaks do when all the listening devices have been scanned out of the room, all their phones have been put into bags and locked away in a lead vault? What do those freaks do? Because you know it's not normal shit. You know everybody who's buttoned down like that and wants to control the world, there's something involved that's outlandish that they keep a secret. That's always been the case with secret societies. I mean, that's the whole Eyes Wide Shut thing, that there's some freak shit going on behind the scenes to anybody that really wants to control everything. You don't just want to control everything. You want to control everything so you can get away with some freak shit, too.
Right, I'm saying, but these Epstein-like characters have existed throughout history, whether they were kings or what, human beings are human beings universally. So everybody is a supplier. Epstein, Weinstein, like, these guys knew what these extremists liked and provided it, and provided the way for you to to have $1 billion and not create a fantasy island type environment has not existed throughout history.
Right. Right.
Right.
And there's always been those people can only kind of interact with those kind of people. When you reach that certain level of wealth and global success, like you're a Bill Gates type guy, how many guys can Bill Gates hang out with? Bill Gates can't just go bowl and join the bowling team and make friends with the other bowlers. It's too weird. He's got to hang out with his kind. And the more you do that, the less you are in touch with what makes sense to say. And that's when you see them saying the most outlandish shit, because they don't recognize how regular people are going to react to what the fuck you're saying. You know what? We're going to own nothing and be happy? What the fuck did you just say? Did you just say I'm going to own nothing and be happy? But there's things. So who owns the things? And who enforces who owns the things? And how do you do that? When you take away everybody's weapons, you're the only one that has weapons, and you get to decide who owns the things. And no one owns the things, and everyone's happy. Okay.
Right, but part of what you're trying to do is you're trying to come up with something that allows you to have the power while also profiting simultaneously.
Right.
Right. So if it's modern religion, let's say, so in the teaching of Jesus' time, right, when they said pay the tithes, right, it was you had your whole farming plot, let's say it was 40 acres, and you had corn planted there, right? You would when it came time to harvest, you would harvest everything except the rows that were on the fence, right? And the rows that were on the fence, that was the 10% of your field that would go to people that didn't have it. So it wasn't just you giving the 10%. It was also the fact that human nature is if you were going to give people some of your crops, you going to pick out the best crops for you and your family, and then you'll put another pile for the giveaway. You
Right.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And this took care of that, where it was all equal, and the person that didn't have to feel like they was a beggar. They could come and pick and see which corn they liked and get. You see what I'm saying?
Well,
And
that's a smart move just for harmony in the community, too. Then people have a vested interest in this farmer being successful with his crop.
right.
Some of that crop is yours.
But the decision to take it from that to God said, give me 10% in this plate is going to make $1 billion a day for 1 billion people.
Yeah.
This is why Tesla has to go. Why? Because not what Tesla is saying about electricity. It's the fact that he's saying this should be free for everybody,
Right.
everywhere.
Yeah, he wanted to have aerial electricity free for everybody like radio waves.
And the day that you say that,
that's a wrap.
it's cheaper to keep her because we make $200 billion a day.
Yeah.
And we all agree universally you should pay for this, and we'll be in charge of selling it to you.
And we'll shut it off if you fuck around.
So
Clunk.
for us to say, I think they're going to do that with cars.
Duh.
This is how this goes in these
100%.
processes.
Yeah, that's the conspiracy theorist's biggest fear about electric cars. But it's not just electric cars. We found out it's an OnStar. It's on, I have a Cadillac Escalade. That has an OnStar. If I'm driving, the government wants to stop me, they can just shut my car off. It's crazy.
And if you were in that business, what would you tell them they need to do in the next 5 years?
Yeah, make them all like
get
that.
better at it?
Yeah, get better at that. Control where they go, control the steering wheel, control everything. I want you to auto driving on all cars. Auto driving on all cars with third-party input.
Is this not what we would say to Tesla?
Yeah.
To Elon, if he said, I want to make cars.
Right.
When we say, okay, well, these are the regulations, and you
Yeah.
have to make them like this, and you...
It'd be nice if you could just control that car. Here, this is how you sell it to people. If someone steals your car, we can get it back. And you go, oh, that's great. If someone steals my car, they can get it back. How are they going to get it back? Well, they control your car.
You can make it cheap enough to not be a difficult sell, though, Joe.
Yeah, make it cheap.
That's what capitalism is about.
Yeah. Well, that's also like when you get free internet or free services through Google, right? It's free. But what you're giving up is your data, which is extremely valuable. So they're giving you something. You can now use Google, but now they have all your data, and they're just a big net that mines data. And because of that, they become one of the most powerful entities that's ever existed on Earth. You know, there was a story that I
We
was trying
learned
to
this from
find.
fishermen,
Yeah.
how a net works and how much it's important to get as much in as you possibly can, and that's where analytics live, and
Yes.
that's where I'm saying this is where the DNA industry is built off of is the fact of the future. Like at that same point that you're saying that we'll have those cars that do that, they'll be able to predict crime.
Oh, yeah.
And step in before certain things even need to happen.
Or they'll probably instigate you to a certain level of stress that they could indicate that you're about to commit crime, and then they come in and get you.
They won't need to. They won't need to be that nefarious, only because some of this stuff we know already. It just requires profiling that we're not comfortable with. Like worldwide, most terrible crimes are committed by. This is 73rd time I'm gonna get canceled. Most crime worldwide is done by men with a micro penis, and doctors know who they are, and so at some point they will be able to just focus where they need to focus, and they would know certain things, and that's where, this is why AI exists. If you're your personal AI, you store your information, you make moves based upon what you've learned. So it's not a difficult process. All through history, they had these oracles and these heads and that gave answers.
Right.
And this is where that whole occult conversation intersects, is because at the end of the day, information is information, and the universe is built on a yin-yang thing that applies to everybody.
And we're slowly getting connected to that oracle, slowly getting sucked into that black hole to the point where it will be inescapable.
Right.
Yeah. And those old billionaire dudes would love to be in control of all that.
Look, what else are you to do with that type of money, Joseph?
Buy a bigger yacht.
Like-
yeah, that's the problem.
Right.
It's like, what's the next game? What's the real game?
As human beings, that's what our expectations are
Yeah.
of.
Always.
Yeah, what can you do? And at the end of the day, no matter how much money you amass, it's only about either how you can help others. And if you do that, you're never going to be fulfilled either, because you're never going to help enough people. And that's going to be your whole thing, is not being able to help enough people and just wishing that you could help more.
Right.
Or feeling like everybody is a commodity and that's the way things work, and find out who I'm going to take advantage of and do so. And that's a major part of a lot of things. Like
Another major pattern that human beings fall into time and time again.
Well, the Jewish people are powerful people on this planet, and a lot of that has to do with the process that they have in instilling in their young people a certain amount of information and wherewithal and conversation that does not happen with other cultures, let's say. And that exists only in a few places around the world, but they're always important, especially if you look at things from a non-religious point of view.
Again, it goes back to information.
At all
Yeah.
points.
I mean, all cultures exchanging informations with each other, and the healthiest cultures are the ones that can
Right.
both give the most freedom and allow people to innovate.
Right. Helping ourselves and others.
Uh-huh.
And,
Yeah.
And the profit and the benefit and the, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's part of the process, right? But that's no different than what everybody's religious story says. Like,
What do you think ghosts are? You think that's real?
Interestingly, I don't believe in, well, okay. You either believe in the natural and the supernatural or you don't. And there are facets to everything. So if you don't believe in anything supernatural, then I would assume that means you don't believe in God either. It's like I was telling you earlier. I don't know how you could be a Christian and not believe in extraterrestrials. It's in your book. It says there was a war in heaven and God was fighting Satan and threw him down here. This is taking place. So
Also, when you get to the Old Testament, Ezekiel's story. Ezekiel's story is essentially about a UFO encounter.
I was really frustrated as a black person that we weren't included more in the Bible, right? And so I felt very good when I found that some of the books of the Bible that were banned because they had black guys in them.
Really? What books of the Bible? This is the New Testament? Is this when they were...
You've heard the book.
Constantine?
You've heard about the Book of Enoch, right?
Yes.
Right. So, if you know that book, it says that Noah was an albino.
I always wondered about like Noah's age. They talked about him being hundreds of years old.
And
People
it
thought that was
tells
ridiculous.
everybody's story.
Yeah.
And,
But here's my thought. If human beings were at one point in time more technologically advanced than we are now, which is possible, we are on the verge of taking human life and expanding it way beyond 100 years. We're like real close to that. The people that are alive today will live to be 150.
I'm not qualified to be having any of this conversation.
I'm barely qualified because I've talked to a lot of qualified people.
Disclaimer, but understand, we know more now. Like we know that the Earth is not spinning now the same way that it once was. We know that.
We get slightly different, measurably different, right?
I'm saying the interesting thing is in all of those stories that we're talking about, it never says that they did anything different that got them to be in that position. It just says that they were blessed by God. So
yeah,
now,
they were there.
this is at a time when people were dying of some things that today we would call pretty easy.
Yeah.
You know, but it was wiping out whole groups of people. But, yeah, it's interesting.
Well, it's fascinating because there's no way to go back there and see what the fuck was going on. So no matter what, you're not yet.
Let's be fair, though. They're not telling some wild story. Like, if they say that a guy had this guy lived 600 years, they're also telling you about the 346 children that he had and his 1,500 wives.
Right,
Like,
right.
like, hold on.
Yeah.
These are numbers to back up.
Right. If human beings do live to be 500 years old, that's a real possibility.
That would be the only way that you could show that
Yeah.
is by
Talking about all the wives and all the children, and if you do take what we know now, in terms of like what they are capable of doing now, with human beings and lengthening telomeres, there's a lot of different methodologies that they're using that they believe will extend human life. Use of metformin, NMN, hyperbaric chambers. There's a bunch of different things they're doing. And then there's CRISPR. When they're doing genetic engineering on kids now, and in China they did genetic engineering that would make the children more likely to be brilliant, more likely to be super intelligent.
Sir, why are you acting surprised by key components of the breeding process?
Right. True. Right. And
If we're talking about Frisians, or if we're talking about German Shepherds or Doberman Pinschers, this is perfectly fine, right?
Right.
For me to say
Right.
that thanks to these reasons, this dog is the sheer example of the confirmation of the breed, and that his attributes are his intelligence and his loyalty and his...
Right.
Right. This is all part of
You could do that
these...
shit in a test tube for your kid. Why wouldn't you do it? That's what I think they're going to start off with normal stuff.
It all starts off as normal stuff because it's abnormal. So
Yeah.
the first thing you're doing is, okay, so we're in charge of, like, how could you not?
How could you not?
Is more the question to be had. And that's why in that profession, they're allowed to do certain things and then tell you they're not going to do it no more.
Yes.
That's a key component
Yeah.
to it.
We're not going to do that anymore, Katt. We changed our mind. Yeah. If they're telling you that there's no clones, the guy telling you is probably a fucking clone. At this point, I have no doubt that they've made human clones. They've made dog clones. You can get your dog cloned. If your dog's going to die, you can get the DNA from your dog, get a fucking puppy, and it'll be eerily similar to your dog. They think including some personality traits, which is just very bizarre, very Pet Cemetery.
Right.
But if they can do that, why can't they do that to people? They can.
Well, here's the thing. Before this goes off the rails.
It's too late.
Because there is a God, the bar has been set so insanely high for your clone that you can't really get much usage out of it. So,
Well, if there is a God and you have a clone, the clone doesn't have a soul because you don't have a soul to give that clone. That's
or a personality,
Right.
or certain things like a subconscious.
Right.
Like that's not available on the market. Lungs are, heart is, arms are.
right.
But subconscious, we still don't have the understanding of that, or how we're able to be as brilliant as we are in this world while only using a portion of the though there are those of us that know with the pineal gland what medicine says it's for, and what that would mean. And so those people's job is to make sure that there's fluoride in all the water. So your pineal gland will shrivel.
Get calcified or whatever happens to it.
That's all.
The fluoride thing is wild. The fact that people aren't up in arms about them putting fluoride in your fucking drinking water is so crazy. It's so unnecessary.
It's brilliant on the other end, though.
Oh, yeah.
So what happened is the reason people have that relationship is they cleaned up the water the same time that they did that. You see what I'm saying? So people at that time just remember the water not being that great. and then all of a sudden the water is really great, and it's got fluoride, and it's good for your
teeth.
right.
Despite the fact that there's direct correlations between high levels of fluoride in drinking water and low IQs. They think it lowers people's IQs. They think it's terrible for you. Fluoride's dangerous. You're not supposed to swallow toothpaste.
Look, whatever you're saying, people won't find out about that for 100 years, and I'm not even going to be 100. And most of these decisions are made like that.
Yeah. Well, most people are terribly unaware of the fluoride thing. And when you bring it up, they always say it's good for your teeth. Like, don't you brush your fucking teeth? Like, why do you need fluoride? Why do you need fluoride in your water? Are you sure that's why your teeth aren't falling out?
It's the fact that people don't understand that it's a toxic thing that you can't buy or purchase or handle.
It's in your drinking water. And it's not doing you any good other than supposedly it's good for your teeth.
Well, even if it was.
Yeah, even if it was. At what cost?
Even if it was great for your teeth and your bones, you drinking it wouldn't be the way you'd be trying to get that.
No.
But
I don't even use fluoride toothpaste.
I'm not going to let you take me where this conversation is going.
Where's it going?
Now that we went to fluoride, like I'm
Where's
going
it
to
going?
have to cut no further than that, because once you start having what they'll do, like, yeah. You understand everything's a campaign, and that's how you can approach everything is find out
who's making money off this.
Where's the profit? How does this make sense? Why? Yeah.
Somewhere right now, the fluoride plants are going, what the fuck are they talking about? Did somebody just introduce legislation to try to remove fluoride from some state from drinking water? Some people are waking up to it. They're realizing, like, this is so unnecessary and obviously not good.
Well, just understand that there are far too many places that don't have clean waters.
Mm-hmm.
So, you
True.
know, like
Flint, Michigan. Still that water's fucked up. There's what about that place in Ohio
hold on. And why? Because nobody wants it to be their fault. So nobody will take, like,
right.
You understand how
Well, even the government.
not
There's plenty of money for Ukraine.
Not even.
Yeah.
Like
Exactly.
how are we allowed to have a foreign policy when we are violating the policies here?
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Like what do you mean the immigrants are getting a check and we're putting them up in places that what? You mean in the homeless people's face?
Right in the homeless people's faces.
Like,
right?
let us show you what we could have done.
Right.
Wow.
Crazy.
That's not okay as a society.
No. Well, did you see the scam that they were trying to do in New York City? Where they were trying to give them debit cards with $10,000, but there's people getting cuts all along the way?
That wasn't a scam. That was business that got uncovered.
Yeah.
And I'll prove it to you. When you go to, like, if you go to jail in New York, everybody goes to Rikers Island. So I was in Rikers Island. So if you got money on you when you go in, they give you a card when you leaving, and it's got money on it. Your amount. Like, systems are the system. Like, right.
Yeah. There's a lot of money being made.
Yeah.
A lot of money being tossed around in the system. And if you have a thing like an open immigration policy, for sure, someone's figuring out how to profit off that. Someone's figuring out something about that.
No, you're looking at it the wrong way. There is no one who isn't profiting.
Everyone's profiting.
I'm saying, how ridiculous is it for you to think you have the greatest country in the world and then it not be a big deal to get there?
Of course.
What do you mean?
Of course.
This is the hunt, the bees saying, "Why do they love our honey so much?" Right?
Well, no one's shocked at that. What people are shocked at is that there's no effort whatsoever to stop the stem of illegal immigration. That's what people are freaked out about. Like, it seems like
We're
it's on
not
purpose.
freaked out about the loss of bees.
I am.
If all the bees are gone,
We're fucked.
we're gonna die as a civilization because we didn't protect one of the most important insects in the whole ecosystem.
Yeah.
Right. So, you know.
And they think cell phone signals are fucking them up too.
Well,
Can you imagine you've been a bee forever, and then all of a sudden someone introduces cell phone signals everywhere? And you're
this
like,
is
oh,
part
no.
of the purpose of religion in society is to try to get you away from exploring all of the things you could be doing with your time and put it somewhere that's healthier.
Like, what do you mean?
Like principles of meditation and, you know, believing that you should be trying to do a good job and being nice, you know, because it's not really that profitable, right? But here we are talking about, you know, that's what really would help our country and civilization if we treated the downtrodden better. But the truth is very little money in that.
Yeah.
There's very little money in that. The truth is that the immigrants that come over here are generally super qualified at something.
Yeah, and motivated.
And
I mean, shit. If
yeah,
I just walked
and
here,
that's what's made all immigration important.
Mhm.
It, you know what I mean? Like the Mexican people were the second, or well, they were their own jolt to the civilization of the fact that, yeah, you say, oh, they shouldn't come over, but anybody that comes over willing to work hard and succeed, and those are people you want a part, and they immediately help. Like, you can look at the extremes, of course, but the benefit are astronomical and always have been since Pangea.
yeah, the benefits are great. The side effects are crime. And that's what you have to be careful of, especially when you got organized crime that's coming in to sell fentanyl. You got a lot of that. That's a wild one, because that's propped up by laws. That's propped up by our drug laws. And that puts you in a real complicated situation. Like, do you make drugs legal? Everything legal. The problem is you're going to get a bunch of people that get addicted to drugs that probably wouldn't without that. And then you have to say, is that just part of the process? We have to learn to deal with this new thing that's everywhere and readily available. And how many people are going to try it just because it's legal? Probably quite a few. But at least how many people are not going to die from fentanyl poisoning because they're going to get pure stuff? Probably a lot.
Yeah, talking fentanyl in specific, like, it's a very difficult conversation to have because most of the things that we will all agree are terrible drugs aren't being used at the hospital.
Right.
So until that part gets taken, like, it's a bad look all the way around. But the bar has been set so high. Like, everything that's called a drug nowadays is terrible. Like, there's been no evolution. Like, yikes.
Well, that's part of the problem with keeping drugs illegal, and especially psychedelic drugs, since 1970. It's like stymied human evolution, stymied research, stymied growth.
What did?
Keeping drugs illegal, keeping psychedelic drugs illegal.
Look, if there
Specifically
was
psychedelic drugs.
If there was a God, then he put a fail-safe on the drug so that you would have a barrier.
And that's Richard Nixon?
That's ODing.
ODing, yeah. Right, with
So-
those drugs.
Right. So really what's happening is you're like, okay, whatever you're on, do it till you're dead. And
Yeah.
so, statistically, that's going to happen. You're going to lose some people, but the people that's not doing it, they're not going to start doing it. Like,
Right, and they're going to learn from the people that died. Like you learned to not eat poisonous plants.
You would think, but if that were true, nobody in the world would ever do heroin. Like, if you've ever seen somebody kick it, like,
Right.
you would never do it. Like, it doesn't matter how it makes you feel if the end result is defecating and urinating in a puddle that you're laying in while being naked. Then, like,
Yeah.
you would,
Yeah.
like,
True.
you would just call that poisonous.
If you were smart. Yeah. You would learn. You would learn from other people doing it. And that's
Right.
the thing. It's like we're reluctant to allow that factor into people's lives, but we kind of have with a lot of other factors.
Well, a lot of these things were used sparingly and in context as well. You follow what I'm saying?
Oh, sure.
So,
Particularly a lot of psychedelics. They were used in a ritualistic way.
but that's like us saying, well, in that cooking show, they were using herbs and spices. Like, yeah, that goes with it.
Right.
Like,
Right.
if somebody tells you that when they used to come through with the ball and the smoke and the incense, that at one point it was marijuana,
yeah.
right? Understand that it was setting the mood of the room.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, that's how you know there is an occult. How could there not be? There's another side to everything, universally. So, yeah.
That must have been a wild time in church. Everybody just got contact high. People walking down the aisles with balls filled with marijuana smoke.
Well, understand, this is not being consistently done. This is being done.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so there's no such thing as you getting too much of it. You're not getting enough to do anything except relax.
Right.
And relax is what you should be
Yes.
doing as we discuss what we're discussing.
Yeah, it'll humble you a little. Calm you down a little.
It'll take the edge off.
Yeah.
You're
take the
not
edge off.
you're not getting enough to have the munchies, and if you do, we'll probably have a little something for I don't know. But I'm saying all throughout history, people have been searching for this connection. And,
Yes.
and we don't have historically any evidence of any groups of people doing something for no reason.
Right.
There was a element to this. So when we have the stories of we went in this cave and crazy shit was down there, and like we now know that a lot of that existed. Like the air is not the same down there. Like it might have been a poisonous gas in there, and we
Right.
know that these were things that were not known then. So it's just fascinating to see the stories where we are now and to see how advanced they were on these particular subjects. And that time weeded out the BS stories really well.
Yeah, there's probably something to all of them. There's probably something to all stories from all cultures. There's a reason why they would want to tell them over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm. One of the criteria for it to last over time.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I understood. When I broke the internet, I was trying, let me see if you know. Like, when you start studying quotes and where great quotes come from, you start getting these people that are known for their great quotes, right? But the further you go back, you see who really said it 1st. You know what I mean? And that's what brings it full circle to that emerald tablet I was telling you about, right? Because 70% of it is something you've heard somewhere else.
Well, I can't wait to read it. I wasn't even aware of it, but it totally makes sense.
Like, there are things in it that are verbatim to the Bible, verbatim to the Quran, like verbatim to...
I'm going to read it.
It's a great thing.
Katt Williams, thank you for being here, man. This was a lot of fun.
Thank
glad
you
we finally
for
did
having
it.
me, Joe. You're a
Glad I finally
superhero.
met you.
Yeah, me too.
I appreciate you very much, man. And we talk well about you all